My younger sister was the family's golden child, and I always doted on her. Toys, jewelry, if she so much as hinted at wanting them, I'd let her have them. On my engagement day, she secretly wore my gown, put on flawless makeup, and gazed at my fiancé with pitiful doe eyes. She just assumed I'd let her have this too. Like everything else, I clutched my fiancé's hand tightly. You can't have this, big sister, I'm afraid. He usually smiled apologetically. My bad. Yet years later, he abandoned me during my hemorrhagic childbirth to tend to his feverish sister. The moment I saw her at the engagement party, I knew I'd chosen the wrong person. It's your refusal to let go that kept me and her apart all these years. I died carrying our unborn child. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the engagement party. Song Shuiwe stood before me in my haute couture gown, her eyes red-rimmed as she stared at me. Her delicate makeup only accentuated the innate sweetness of her face, making her appear even more pitiable. I froze momentarily before looking down to realize I was holding Hiyuji's hand. I had just refused her outrageous request to hand over my fiancé to her. I've always given her whatever she wanted since we were kids, even if it was the last one, even if I wanted it just as badly. This was the first time I ever said no to her. Her face was a picture of shock as she stood there awkwardly, the guest's scorching gazes burning into her. Probably the first humiliation she'd suffered in over 20 years. Sorry, he usually gazed at Song Shuiwe with a faint smile. This time, I caught the barely perceptible regret in his eyes, along with a trace of resentment. In my past life, I never noticed. In fact, those very words made me believe he held feelings for me too. But after we got married, he's always been giving me the cold shoulder. Back then, I was completely devoted to my career, with just enough room in my heart for one person, someone I could pour all my tenderness into. No matter how cold he acted, I kept telling myself it was just because ours was a marriage of convenience. If I keep treating him well, surely even the coldest heart would thaw someday, wouldn't it? He would only lower his head to sign those documents when I brought profits to the whole group. The rest of the time, even when I was delirious with high fever, he'd just briefly visit the hospital as I was recovering. I thought he was naturally cold, or perhaps genuinely overwhelmed with work, until the day I saw my perpetually indifferent husband cradling my slightly feverish sister with frantic worry. That's when blood surged to my throat during pregnancy, and my world came crashing down in crimson. He took no action, just stared at me coldly. The moment I saw her at the engagement party, I knew I'd chosen wrong. It's your refusal to let go that's kept us apart all these years. Only then did I realize his aloofness wasn't innate. He just doesn't love me. Seeing Hiyuji's apologetic smile, I loosened my grip. Just kidding. How could I possibly deny Yaya something she loves? Both Song Shuiwe and Hiyuji froze momentarily. Everyone knows that despite the He family's decline, marrying their eldest son means inheriting their business empire. That dowry would be astronomical. Hiyuji's eyes briefly sparkled before regaining composure. Wanqin, this doesn't seem fair to you. I waved my hand dismissively. What difference does it make which girl the heir marries? This is a union between the He and Song families. Does my sister not bear the Song name? A glimmer of triumph flashed in Song Shuyue's eyes as she struggled to suppress her smile. But elder sister, what about the He family's business interests? I raised an eyebrow with a dangerous glint in my eyes. So she knew exactly what this would cost me, yet chose to do it anyway. Song Shuyue's gaze faltered momentarily. I smiled. Take it all, if it pleases you, little sister. A smile finally escaped Song Shuyue's lips despite her efforts to suppress it. Me too. How could she possibly understand the challenges of managing the He family's business? In my past life, I pushed myself to the brink of a nervous breakdown just to barely elevate the He family to the pinnacle of their commercial empire. Looking back, I should have sold all the shares I could when taking over, living carefree with lifelong financial security. I narrowed my eyes. Could my pampered sister, who knows nothing about business, really recreate the legend with this heir of the He family? He usually set the diamond ring aside and turned to Song Shuyue. This ring was made to your sister's measurements. I'll have another one custom made for you. Song Shuyue flushed with embarrassment. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. The man in the corner rose lazily and sauntered out. Memories from my past life flooded my mind. I grabbed the ring and rushed out in a few quick strides to stop the person. Marry me. In my previous life, since I didn't yield Hiyuji, Song Shuyue had no choice but to marry the He family's second young master, He Jinan, as an illegitimate child. My pampered younger sister found the marriage beneath her status and soon filed for divorce. The second son of the He family wasn't one to tolerate others' attitudes either. After his divorce, he severed ties with the family altogether. Later, He became the biggest obstacle in my efforts to advance the He family's business. Until the day I died, the company he founded loomed over me like an unshakable shadow. A man like him is worth an entire army. If you don't recruit such talent to your side, you'll just end up crushed under his heel again. At that moment, he glanced at the ring in my hand and raised an eyebrow. Are you proposing to me? I nodded vigorously. Towering over me by two heads, he leaned down with a teasing smirk. Ms. Song, just so you know, I'm the illegitimate son. The He family fortune isn't mine to inherit. Marrying me would only bring you misery. I froze, unprepared for his brutal honesty. Too, with a derisive smirk, he straightened up and walked away without another word. I grabbed his wrist abruptly, and he turned back in surprise. How do you know we won't end well? Holding the ring in my hand, I smiled. They say the second young master's got nerves of steel. Care to make a wager? His dark brows furrowed slightly, and I seized the moment. I'm willing to gamble on you, second young master. He, dare you not bet on my love? A tempest of emotions flickered through those profound eyes. It all dissolved into a cold sneer between his teeth. He lifted my hand, slid the ring onto my finger, and gave me a look. This is insane. Then he turned and walked away, as if we'd just shared a casual drink with the boys, not gotten engaged. Watching the ring glint in the sunlight, I flashed a triumphant smile. Upon returning, Song Shuiwei was clinging affectionately to Hiyuji's arm, toasting passing guests with her wineglass. What should have been my engagement party had unmistakably become Song Shuiwei's stage. Spotting me and the ring on my finger, she curled her lips in disdain before nestling her head against Hiyuji. The He family's second young master seems quite suitable for elder sister. The passing guests froze momentarily. Everyone knew that illegitimate son of the He family was an embarrassment. Wasn't bringing this up publicly a deliberate slight to the elder sister? I burst out laughing. Little sister, if I were you, I'd kneel down right now and kowtow to myself 3 times. She froze for a moment. What? I raised my voice. If I hadn't handed him over, would you have ever gotten your brother-in-law? Don't push your luck after getting the upper hand. Seems like little sister's bathwater might accidentally brew a whole vat of green tea. Huh, someone snorted with laughter. The spoiled younger sister flushed crimson. That's nonsense. Yuji and I are truly in love. Who said we need your permission? Truly in love. I grabbed Song Shuiwei's gown with a jerk. Does my dress fit you well? The guests had already begun whispering among themselves. No wonder the dress looked ill-fitting. She's wearing her sister's. With the Song family's wealth and status, there's no need to wear someone else's dress. Song Shuiwei is clearly doing this on purpose. I laughed out loud. Wasn't this supposed to be mutual affection? Then why steal my clothes to validate yourself? Little sister, are you really that insecure? Afraid your brother-in-law won't fancy you? Oh wait, my bad, he's not your brother-in-law anymore. Hiyuji frowned. Will you ever stop? Just a few words, and young master, he's already upset. I raised my glass, looking at him with complete composure. To everlasting happiness. His casual attitude made Hiyuji frown repeatedly. Such is human nature. Getting what one desires naturally brings joy. Yet if the person you yielded to shows no trace of regret, it inevitably leaves a bitter taste. I'm here to make their lives miserable. Song Shuiwei and Hiyuji's wedding was extravagantly grand, even more ostentatious than my own wedding in my past life, probably because she's their biological daughter, while I'm just the child from mom's previous marriage, never truly accepted by my stepfather. The He family looked down on illegitimate children, and my stepfather was ashamed of me marrying one. So we didn't even have a wedding on our wedding registry day. We just grabbed a meal together. That was our entire wedding celebration. See, I told you life with me wouldn't be all sunshine and rainbows. He grinned without a care in the world. I took a sip of my drink. Don't worry, you've still got me. The Song family allocated me a 10% stake in their business, small but highly profitable. We won't go hungry. He seemed caught off guard by my bluntness, but recovered his nonchalant air almost instantly. 3, guess we're doomed to starve then. With that rotten attitude, no wonder Song Shuiwei divorced him, but I've got nothing to be angry about. There's no difference between him and me. What's the difference between a stepdaughter and a bastard child in the Song family? No right to object. No privilege to complain. When the real young mistress wants something, you hand it over. This family gave you status and benefits. Now it demands your complete loyalty and proper conduct in return. As for that pathetic longing for familial affection, spare us the embarrassment of hearing it. Song Shuiwei is counting on you to secure her future. Who in this household has patience for your whining? Over time, those selfish thoughts were buried deep, as if they'd never existed. Moonlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling window, casting sharp shadows across Heejinen's chiseled features, and I suddenly realized how improper my actions had been. I wanted to use him, to ride his coattails when he rose to power and pave my own way forward, yet I was luring him with the very love I'd always longed for but never received. Pretty damn despicable of me. Swirling my wine glass, I felt no irritation at his lack of cooperation. Don't worry, as long as I'm still breathing, I'll clear the path ahead for you as best I can. When you've lacked something for too long and see others in the same boat, some will make them crave it even more, while others will do everything to make up for it. I'm the latter. He froze for a moment. Maybe it's just my imagination, but his gaze seemed less distracted now. Oh really? He raised his glass with a casual gesture, slipping back into that carefree tone. MS, Song, what's given can't be taken back. You might want to reconsider your words. I sighed inwardly and clinked glasses with him. What do you take me for? Song Shiyue's honeymoon period didn't last long. Within just a few months under her management, the two previously profitable companies unexpectedly started bleeding money, yet my 10% stake in the Song family business kept hitting record profits, far outpacing her losses. After all, I'm the one who kept the Song family firmly at the top while dragging the half-dead He family onto the rankings. Managing just this little bit is child's play for me. But something felt off during this family dinner. Wanqin, your business has been doing well lately, but your younger sister's hit a rough patch. Don't you think you should share some profits to help her out? I paused with my spoon halfway to my mouth and looked up at Mom. After doing the math, if we redirect your recent profits along with your working capital, it would perfectly cover Shuyue's shortfall. As the eldest sister, you should contribute to the family. I nearly laughed out loud. Mom, Dad, back when my business was struggling, you always told me to figure things out on my own. How is it my responsibility to bail out my sister's financial losses caused by her overambitious but incompetent decisions, especially when the He family's business shares involved were only handed to her after she sabotaged my engagement party? Do I really owe her anything? Song Shuyue, who'd always relied on their parents to fight her battles, widened her eyes dramatically. How dare you say you don't owe me? If you hadn't so readily yielded Yuji to me, I wouldn't have been careless enough to think those He family shares given as betrothal gifts were safe. Had you warned me properly, I wouldn't have suffered such a devastating loss. She was right. The Ho family is nothing but trouble. The Ho enterprise was already on the brink of collapse when they decided to dump this mess on us. They're old family friends. They counted on my good nature to save their business without trying to take it over. Too bad that was in another lifetime. That good-for-nothing Song Shuyue can't handle responsibility. Wanqin, you know Shuyue lacks experience. It was your duty to guide her. Now that she's mismanaged everything and piled up debts, don't you share the blame. Be reasonable. 150 million is nothing for you. Didn't you just secure major funding? Don't think I don't know about it. Mother's tone turned stiff, as if afraid of upsetting the stepfather. Normally, I would have let it slide, but this time, I slammed my chopsticks down with a clack. No way, Song Wanqin. Mom banged the table. I won't back down. That's bridge financing. Even if we give it to Song Shuyue to plug the hole, she'll just lose it all. Our cash flow would collapse too, and then neither side would see a dime. These partners took tremendous effort to secure. If I blow up the funding now, what happens to our credibility? How could they ever trust us again? Finally, my stepfather spoke with absolute authority. Are you certain? Got it. Why would I play the fool for others twice? 4. The stepfather's lip twitched. Fine, Wanqin Song. Seems I've been too lenient, making you think this household can't function without you. Effective immediately, your authority to represent the Song Group is revoked. All assets under your name will be reclaimed. Get the hell back to where you came from. Mother turned pale, but not out of concern for me. The way she cautiously approached my stepfather told me everything. She was terrified he'd redirect his fury toward her. Ever since Song Shuyue came along, she's made me feel like an outsider. If it weren't for my exceptional business acumen, I'd have been kicked out long ago. The stepfather turned and patted Song Shuyue's head. Don't worry, sweetheart, Daddy will transfer all her funds to you. Those debts of yours are nothing to fuss about. Song Shuyue nestled into their embrace, wiping her tears before cooing a delicate in response. Her once docile gaze turned smug and disdainful when she looked at me. Overnight, I was stripped of all my titles in the Song family, becoming the most thoroughly dismissed member of the Song clan. Mother even ordered the servants to throw out my belongings, casually deleting my contact information along the way. Standing outside the Song residence, I watched the door slam shut without hesitation. Mother couldn't even bear to glance my way. I lowered my eyes without a flicker of emotion. the childhood longing for familial affection, once suppressed, seemed to have truly withered in my heart. Even if truly abandoned, I remained unshaken, having long steeled myself for this moment. As I dragged my luggage while calling a driver, a car pulled up right before me. Jinan's roguish face appeared behind the car window. MS, Song, off on a trip my ass. My banishment from home was practically broadcasted by Song Shuiwe to the whole world. How could he not know? They must have been lurking around just waiting to see me make a fool of myself. He chuckled carelessly. Need a ride from your hubby, Mrs. Song? Don't mind if I do. I yanked the car door open and climbed in. Get out and load the luggage. He paused. You really don't hold back, do you? There's one company the Song family can't take away. It's the small business Dad left behind, transferred to my name after his passing. Mom thought Dad's meager earnings weren't worth mentioning, so she didn't even bring it up when I left. Thankfully, where there's life there's hope. Jinan and I at least wouldn't starve, but soon enough, I faced something even worse than starvation. This small business got sued by the Song Corporation. When an accident occurred during the Song family's construction project, my company, which had previously done business with them, got screwed over by their legal sharks exploiting contractual loopholes to pin all the blame on me. The company entrance was already swarmed with grieving families demanding justice for the workers. Crushed by the workload and lawsuits, I woke up the next day with a skull-splitting headache. My secretary's calls kept ringing relentlessly. It took me multiple attempts just to pick up the phone. I'll go. Just stall for a bit longer. Secretary Kobayashi's anxious tone suddenly shifted to surprise. President Song, what's wrong with your voice? Maybe I should go plead with our partner. No, cough absolutely not. I nearly choked to death. Wait for me. I'll be there in half an hour. My whole body felt weak, and dizziness hit me the moment I got up. I desperately crawled toward the nightstand. I remembered there was cold medicine there. Well, MS, Song, taking a swim. The teasing voice came from above, and I knew right away it was that jerk Jinan up to his usual nonsense. He must have just finished his morning run, freshly showered and still shirtless, casually sipping a cup of coffee. I wasn't in the mood to admire his perfectly sculpted muscles. Rasping out, medicine, drawer, cough. He paused, set down his coffee, and sat on the edge of the bed, looking at me intently. Dressing up as Donald Duck. Screw you. I knew this idiot was useless. Gritting my teeth against the headache, I staggered out of bed. Everything was blurry before my eyes when someone suddenly grabbed me. I'll call the doctor for you. Just rest now. No, the company still needs me, he said nonchalantly. The company won't die without you, but you might. No, I must. Cough. I pushed him away and got off the bed, only to collapse onto my knees with a thud, like a kid begging Jinan for New Year's money. You're impossible. He scooped me up and pinned me to the bed. You're not going anywhere today. I'm keeping an eye on you. I struggled to get up, but he pressed down harder, finally losing patience and snapping at me uncharacteristically. Do you have to die to be happy? Look at the state you're in. His shouting jolted me back to my senses. Gritting my teeth, I resolved to tell him about the past. 5. You don't know. Those relatives drove my father to his death. Cough. His hand froze, staring at his blurred figure. I muttered, she's using the same tactics on me that killed my father. Ever since her new family, she's treated me like baggage. Cough. I'd rather die than yield. Cough. Let her think we're easy targets, my father and me. The room fell silent for a moment before Jinan let out a sigh. Got it, I'll go. I burst out laughing in his arms, my mind foggy as the words slipped out. You're not ready yet. It'll take 2 more years, until you meet your business partner. Cough. That's when you'll really take off. Even I, cough, can't beat you. He frowned. What did you say? My mind had long been fried by fever, so I just rolled my eyes and passed out. Waking up and seeing the time on my phone, my first thought was I'm screwed. I've been sleeping for a full day and 2 nights. The company's probably been swarmed by angry relatives by now. When I saw Kobayashi, I froze. What are you doing here? Go handle the relatives' complaints at the office. She blinked in surprise. But mister, he has already taken care of everything. I bolted upright. Say that again. Wait, wasn't mister. He sent here by you, President. Kobayashi looked utterly confused. I saw him swiftly settle matters with the family and even got the Songs to drop the lawsuit. I assumed you'd briefed him. How could I possibly guide him when I was practically unconscious, mister? He even covered the company's financial gap. God knows where he got the money. A chilling sensation crept up from the soles of my feet. That guy rose to power way too abruptly in his past life, and once he gained momentum, there was no stopping him. If it was just luck, that explanation doesn't hold water. That level of capability was clearly the result of long-term scheming. His current skills are simply unfathomable. Where is he? Got slashed twice by family members, lying in the other building now. I nearly fell off the bed. Shaolin rushed over in panic. Director Song, you just woke up, don't move. Tell me what you need, I'm going to check. Before I could say him, someone was already standing at the door, his left arm in a sling. He leaned against the doorframe, looking down at me. Not a trace of joy at seeing me, more like anger, sensing the tension. Kobayashi made a discreet exit to save his own skin. Jinin curled the corner of his lips. Ms. Song really knows how to put on an act. All smiles to your face but a knife behind your back. What's this? Now that you've used me, you're just going to toss me aside. I was completely baffled. What are you talking about? He pinned me to the bed with one hand. What's the idea of sending Song Shuiwa to take care of me? Huh? Can't even spare the money for a proper nurse. You'd rather have that thing look after me. In my past life, even though I'd rejected Song Shuiwa, she secretly added Hiyuji on WeChat and bombarded him with good morning and good night messages every day. When I was away on business, she showed up at my house claiming I'd asked her to look after my husband because I couldn't bear to leave him alone. Hiyuji already disliked me. He wouldn't bother checking with me and just accepted this kindness I never actually offered. By the time I found out, they were already as close as family. I cut off all support for her after learning the truth. Song Shuiwa twisted the situation, making me out to be the ungrateful wretch of the Song family. Even as I lay dying, Hiyuji condemned me for my jealous behavior. Forget past lives. Why is she still walking straight into the line of fire this time around? I just woke up. Where exactly am I supposed to summon her to take care of you, even if I were fully conscious? I'd never send her your way. Jinin let out a laugh. Exactly, Madame Song's always been far-sighted, hedging her bets early. Why else would she rush to marry a bastard like me? 2 years from now, she'll have milked me dry and kicked me to the curb. Am I right? I'm choking. So this was his trap all along. Remembering the nonsense I babbled during my feverish delirium sent chills down my spine. That was all delirious rambling. What are you even thinking about, Ms. Song? I can certainly tell the difference between nonsense and genuine words. As I met his knowing gaze, a deeper chill ran through me. Don't tell me you too. He smirked mockingly, yet with an undercurrent of sorrow. 6. I should have known. No wonder Madame Song gave up her brother. No wonder she chose me as her husband. You want me to gamble on your love, Madame Song. Even after rebirth, you remain chilling, using love as bait now. Is that it? I'd never seen such sorrow in the face of a carefree man. Let alone mixed with expectations he believed could never be fulfilled. When I didn't respond, his smile grew even more mocking. Ms. Song, I'll give you what you want. Just stop feeding me that bullshit about love. After getting everything you desired in 2 years, did it ever cross your mind what to do with me? I know. A bastard like me isn't worthy of Ms. Song's affection. I should have let that relative stab me to death. You'd have gotten the inheritance anyway. Why the hell did I cling to life just to see you? Jinin. I slapped him across the face. I held back my strength, afraid of hurting him. Sure enough, he froze. My hand trembled slightly as I pushed him away. Do you really have to degrade yourself like this? If I don't love you, you'll just give up on life. If people don't like your career, you'll just quit. When did you become so pathetic? Are you even worthy of being my former rival? Since when has Jinin been such a fool? He stood there with bandages wrapped around his abdomen. I couldn't help but frown, softening my tone. Jinin, I love you. You're the one I love most. There's no one else in this world. He remained completely still. I approached cautiously, reaching out my hand. Are you alright? My hand was caught and pressed against his face as he looked down at me. Wan, it hurts. My heart skipped a beat. Damn. This is the first time he didn't call me Ms. Song. Where? I searched for his wound. He grabbed my hand and rubbed the spot I'd hit. Here. I barely even hit you. Okay. My hand slid downward, brushing against his left hand, right here, finally resting on his abs. There's just no way I can trash talk this. Wan. I just got treated unfairly at Song Shuyua's place. You owe me compensation. I was stunned. But I didn't call you over there. Without another word. He pinned me down on the bed, his free hand already getting fresh, Wan still paying me back either way. I stood there dumbfounded, and before long, I couldn't help but curse. Jinin, you're a monster. Hours later, he finally released me, and I collapsed into his arms, drowsy with exhaustion. His breath brushed against the tip of my ear. Wan, I told you, what's given to me can't be taken back. half asleep. I rolled over and murmured in response. When I woke up, Xiao Lin was peeling an apple by my bedside. You're awake, President Song, mister. He bought you breakfast. He's just wrapping things up at the office now. I rolled out of bed, only to be grabbed by her. President Song, you haven't eaten yet. Where are you going? To punch someone. She stood there dumbfounded. Song Shuiwei has some nerve. Even after rebirth, she dares to steal my man. If I don't teach her a lesson this time, my second chance at life would be wasted. But just as I arrived at their doorstep, the sound of an argument stopped me in my tracks. Song Shuiwei, what do you mean you regret it? Why didn't you say so when you married me? Now that she's married to your brother, you change your mind. What kind of man are you? He I told you I'd pay whatever amount you demand. What's the point of throwing such unreasonable tantrums? Song Shuiwei, do you really think she'll be with you if we divorce? He you heartless bastard. He at least I'm not a bastard child, but your business skills can't even match a bastard's. And don't think I don't know you went to see my brother. Song Shuiwei, he what's wrong? Seeing his true colors makes you regret marrying him, doesn't it? Then get a divorce ASAP. Don't ruin our chances at happiness. The argument stopped abruptly as they both turned to look at me standing in the doorway. He eyes lit up, his voice trembling slightly. Wan, why does hearing him call her Wan make me so uneasy? This isn't the time for arguments. I turned and ran. Wan, if you dare walk out that door, don't you ever come back. Let go. Don't make me say it again. I jumped into the cab. Go, lose that lunatic behind us. The taxi driver sped away. What a coincidence. The car pulled up right at my doorstep. Driver, you. Just as I was about to compliment him, I saw He-Jinan take off his baseball cap. My words caught in my throat, coming out as a startled, what are you doing here? His slender fingers tapped rhythmically on the steering wheel. My brother really can't seem to get you out of his head. I swallowed hard, sensing trouble brewing. Sure enough. He let out a soft chuckle while staring at me. Not like me. Nobody ever cared about me since I was little. Got called a bastard as soon as I could remember. Dragged back to the He family at 6. No love from father or mother. Living off cold water and spoiled scraps. I cut in hastily. Alright. I care about you. I'll always care about you. Triumph flashed across his face. Prove it to me. I turned my head in surprise. I couldn't fathom why my sworn nemesis from my past life, the one I could never defeat, turned out to be this kind of character behind the scenes. He raised an eyebrow, looking like he had more to say. Startled, I quickly leaned in and brushed my lips against his. The seatbelt snapped open abruptly. Before I could react, his arm hooked around my waist, pulling me astride him into his embrace. Cradling my waist, he looked up at me. The evidence was insufficient. For the next few hours, I became his living proof. 7. Perhaps due to rebirth, He-Jinan's rise to prominence happened much earlier than in his previous life. When I discovered the partner who wired me a substantial bridge loan was actually him, I nearly fell out of bed in shock. I swallowed hard. You're really not afraid I can't pay you back? He rested his hands behind his head. What kind of husband takes back gifts from his wife? Everything's yours for the taking, except my ashes. Those you'll have to wait for. I smacked him on the head. Ashes my foot. Quick, say tui to ward it off. He burst out laughing. That hazy, distant feeling I'd had when we first met in this life, and perhaps in past ones, was completely gone now. He's so vibrant and genuine now. If my past self knew this sworn enemy would one day be cuddling me to sleep, I'd probably panic sell my shares and flee overnight. He-Jinan's enterprise is now at its zenith. Having formed a business alliance with my company that keeps expanding its influence, but we're rejecting the Song and He family businesses' applications to join. Without me, the Song and He families stand no chance against our dynamic duo. He-Jinan often shares his chat logs with Song Shuiwei with me. Yep, she actually sent He-Jinan a friend request in this lifetime too. He was about to reject it, but I stopped him, told him to keep her as a digital pet instead. I absolutely love watching her make a fool of herself. Perhaps having been brushed off for too long, Song Shuiwei grew increasingly furious and confronted him about stringing her along. He-Jinan's reply was brief. You wish. She was so furious that she ignored him for ages. Later she came crawling back on her own, only to find she'd already been deleted. I burst out laughing, but didn't dare tell He-Jinan that his brother was pestering me too, though I kept blocking each new account. He-Yuji's relentless harassment never stopped. If he finds out and gets jealous, I'll be stuck comforting him for days. Just as everything was getting back to normal, He-Jinan vanished. I went alone to the riverside pier. He-Yuji was waiting for me there. So you still can't let him go, can you? He regarded me leisurely, the silver-framed glasses casting a faintly mocking glint in his eyes under the night light. Darling, is he really that wonderful? Enough to make you abandon your husband from your past life? I gritted my teeth. So you too. He smiled as he took off his glasses, wiping them gently. 7. What a pity I was one step too late. By the time I was reborn, you'd already married my unworthy younger brother. 1. After your death, I've never regretted anything more. He put his glasses back on, his gaze clearing as he looked at me. The traces you left in this home, I've spent a lifetime trying to erase. I thought moving away would finally make me forget you, but you're etched in my mind, impossible to remove. 1. My greatest regret is not growing old with you. I snapped impatiently. Where's my husband? He his voice cut off abruptly, followed by a self-deprecating smile. So 1 already considers him your husband. What about me then? I frowned. Who the hell are you? There was a wounded look in his eyes. I don't care. Where is he? A cold smirk played on his lips as he turned slightly, revealing a corpse bobbing in the river behind him. He can't swim. My heart sank to the pit of my stomach as I frantically ran over, on the verge of screaming He-Jinan's name in despair, only to freeze mid-cry, the figure floating on the water. Why does it have Song Shuyua's face? That insufferable woman just had to tag along and make trouble. Much quieter after we tossed her overboard, He-Yuji's voice dripped with sarcasm. If not for her, we wouldn't have suffered that tragic separation in our past life. In that previous life, my corpse was disposed of right here too. This godforsaken place has no surveillance or witnesses who'd question their claim that I accidentally drowned. I scoffed. It's clearly your own fault, yet you always blame others. He-Yuji, you're exactly the same as the person I met in my past life. He frowned darkly. 1. This dock is dangerously close to international waters. These ships are registered in minor countries with barely any proper legal systems. Once this ship reaches international waters, murder will be the least of our problems. I turned to face him. Fine, put me with my husband. I'll die by his side. He flinched as if stung, his fingers trembling almost imperceptibly. Song Wanqin, is he really that wonderful? You bet. 1,000 times better than you. If I can't see him one last time before I die, I'll never rest in peace. After spending so much time with He-Jinan, I picked up some of his carefree ways. To the other party, it came across as downright provocative. Emotions flickered across He-Yuji's face before settling into a cold sneer. I didn't fight my way back through hell just to watch you flutter off with someone else like love-struck butterflies. He raised his hand. A swarm of burly men came pouring out from both the boats and the shore huts. He chuckled. Take them aboard the ship. I took a step back only to bump into a hulking brute behind me. He smile deepened. 1. I'll take you somewhere no one will ever find us. There, you'll be my only wife. You're bound to me for life. You're out of your mind. I gritted my teeth. Did you really think I came alone? My secretary called the police ages ago. He shrugged. Shaolin, right. Hate to break it to you. She's been working for me all along. Should have called the cops myself. Came here in too much of a hurry, with my mouth gagged. I was being dragged toward the boat. Boom. A deafening explosion. Boats across the river erupted in flames, the one meant to transport me blown to smithereens. Police sirens wailed nearby, sending He-Yuji's gang into a panic. Damn it, weren't we told there'd be no cops? What the hell is this? Quit standing around, run for it. The group scattered like frightened animals, but they were quickly trapped in the police encirclement. I stood alone on the desolate dock. The only surviving boat on the river slowly approached. The cabin door opened, and He-Jinan emerged unhurriedly, holding a detonator remote in his hand, flashing me a grin. Honey, my nidus and shining armor. I stood there speechless, still clutching the gag cloth in my hand. This incident marked the absolute downfall of both the He and Song families. Kobayashi had long been turned, and now He-Jinan threw him in prison along with the rest. My mother came to me in tears, begging me to save my stepfather. I just smiled and had her escorted out. I don't know this woman, as I recall. She was the one who kicked me out of the house not long ago, wasn't she? With my stepfather in prison and debts piling up, the collectors came after her alone. After living in hiding for some time, she finally couldn't take it anymore and took her own life by charcoal burning. I didn't even give her a proper burial. He-Jinan had to kneel on the washboard for 2 whole days before I forgave him. Honey, the mission was too dangerous. That's why I kept it from you. Never thought you'd charge in alone just for me. I'm touched my ass. His smile widened as he deployed his foolproof tactic. 1. I never had a grandmother. She despised me. She was the first to call me a bastard child when I was little. I interrupted with a headache. All right. I I apologize. Happy now. He pointed to his lips. How to apologize? Another night of me being his doormat. Story 2, in my past life. I hated Shen Liangzhou for taking my innocence while drunk. When I left, I was so resolute that I refused to even keep the child. Later, he died in a fire while saving me. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of our divorce. When I rushed back from his competitor's victory banquet, he was celebrating his son's birthday with him. Shen Liangzhou stood there, gazing at me heavily, his eyes utterly lifeless. I ran over and hugged him, choking back sobs. I don't want a divorce anymore. He froze momentarily, his expression dimming. You can torment me however you like, but it's our child's birthday today. Could you at least stay and have a piece of cake with him? I'm begging you. 1. The sizzling sound of skin burning still seemed to echo in my ears. The raging flames distorted everything. The firefighters were breaking down the door. Shen Liangzhou, who had always been fastidious, was propped above me, desperately fending off the devouring flames, even in his final moments. He was still apologizing to me. After being rescued, my usually distant son wept uncontrollably, clutching my hand and trembling as he comforted me. Mom, don't be afraid. I raised my hand to wipe the tears from my son's cheek, but it fell limply back down. Until the last moment before death, I never got the chance to express my love to the two most important people in my life. When I opened my eyes again, I could still feel the despair of that moment. The clamor of celebration flooded my ears. Zhou Yang's joyful eyes danced into my view. Henin, I'm so happy today. Wine glasses clink lightly. He lowered his gaze to me, probing with a hint of ambiguity. Also celebrating your divorce. Divorce. My pupils dilated abruptly. I was reborn in the year I despised Shen Liangzhou the most, the same year we got divorced. In my past life, Shen Liangzhou and I weren't close. One drunken night, he forced himself on me, and the video spread like wildfire throughout our social circle. But my heart already belonged to someone else. This stain forced me to seal away my true feelings. Under pressure from my family and the gossip from outsiders, I had no choice but to marry him. After marriage, I never gave him a kind look. No matter how he tried to make amends, I would always stab him with the sharpest words. We became a resentful couple. It was only later that I found out that drunken incident was a setup targeting him, and he was also a victim. There was no forced marriage coercion at all. Everything was merely a fabricated lie concocted by my parents to achieve their ends. After the misunderstanding was cleared up, before I could even spend proper time with Shen Liangzhou, he perished in flames for my sake. Under Zhou Yang's slightly furrowed brows, I hastily set down the wine glass and dashed out, clutching my skirt. Xiao Han, Zhou Yang's voice was already displeased, but I had no time to care. I needed to see Shen Liangzhou and my son. I didn't have time in my past life, but in this one, I will love them well, too. I've never driven a car this fast before, with memories flashing before my eyes. This was the day I filed for divorce from Shen Liangzhou, and also our son Shen Xingbai's birthday. I coldly rejected my son's birthday request, believing it was just another one of Shen Liangzhou's tactics to trap me. Then I dressed up and attended the victory celebration of my childhood friend Zhou Yang. We drank until the sky turned pale. Supported by Zhou Yang, I stumbled out and saw Shen Liangzhou sitting in the car. He seemed to have waited all night, the cigarette between his fingers already burned out, his expression utterly desolate. In my memory, Shen Liangzhou never smoked. This was also the first time I witnessed Shen Liangzhou, who wielded absolute power in the business world, showing such a pitiful and humble expression. But I loathed him to the extreme and turned to leave. Xiao Han. He got out of the car and walked toward me with an air of desolation. Dawn broke, and all thoughts fell silent. His eyes were bloodshot as he lowered his gaze and whispered softly, "The stars waited for you all night. Can you wish him a happy birthday?" I curled my lips in a sneer and mocked. Shen Liangzhou, is this amusing? The moment I signed the divorce papers, I made it clear, I want neither you nor our son. Back then, you forced me to give birth to him, otherwise. How could I have borne the son of a rapist? Shen Liangzhou fell silent, his expression dimming after a long pause. I wronged you that day, he said hoarsely. Enough, I don't want to see you again, get out of here. I glared at him with bloodshot eyes. After that day, I never saw Shen Liangzhou again. It wasn't until my son was kidnapped that I reconnected with Shen Liangzhou. Later, I realized I was merely a sharp arrow shot at Shen Liangzhou by someone else's hand. Sweat beaded in my palms. Familiar scenery rushed toward me as the car entered the garage. A sudden break made my heart feel like it would leap out of my chest. I couldn't wait to push open the car door and sprint 100 meters. When I saw Shen Liangzhou's cold, stern yet outstanding face, tears silently rolled down. Shen Liangzhou stood in the shadows, gazing heavily at me with lifeless eyes, like a solitary grave. My son saw me, his dark grape-like eyes instantly lighting up. "Mommy," with a clear, bright voice, Xingxing said proudly. "Daddy, look, I told you it was Mommy coming back," I murmured. "Xingxing." With an expectant face, Xingxing asked cautiously, "Mommy, are you back to celebrate my birthday with me?" I discovered I was pregnant during the second month of my marriage. My heart felt like dead ashes at that time. I resented, cried, and made scenes, but ultimately gave birth to this child under Shen Liangzhou's coercion. I detested Shen Liangzhou, so I couldn't even bear to glance at this child. From the moment he was born, he was handed over to a nanny for care. Perhaps it was maternal instinct, but watching him grow bit by bit, I couldn't help wanting to get close to him. Yet the thought of how he came to be filled me with intense self-loathing. Gradually, I even grew afraid of seeing this child, deliberately distanced herself from him and treated him coldly. Eventually, it led him to develop tendencies toward autism. I walked toward my son with a heart full of guilt. Shen Liangzhou blocked my path, gripping my hand with restrained emotion. "It's his birthday today. Don't tell him about our divorce." 3. What? Did he think I was going to tell the kids about the divorce? Xingxing peeked out from behind, blinking curiously, then became cautious when looking at me. "Daddy, what are you talking about with Mommy? Can't Xingxing listen?" Shen Liangzhou gently patted his head. "Daddy and Mommy have something to discuss. Can you be good and cut the cake?" The little star lowered its head dejectedly. "All right then," couldn't help but steal another longing glance at me. Shen Liangzhou and I walked out to the balcony. He stood in the shadows, swallowed by darkness. There's an unbreakable layer of dark clouds in the eyes. I couldn't help but walk towards him, yet he took a step back. The distance between us remains neither too far nor too close, yet the words he spoke didn't match his cold and restrained demeanor. "Are you really this happy about divorcing me? Did you come running here in the dress your lover gave you just to show me how happy you are now?" What? I froze. His gaze fell on my golden mermaid tail gown with flowing embellishments. I remember now. This dress I'm wearing was indeed given to me by Zhou Yang, but Zhou Yang gave this to me before the banquet. How did he know? "I'm sorry, I'll go change out of it right away." "Okay." I tugged at the zipper and hurried toward the bedroom. Shen Liangzhou called out to me. "Xiao Han, all your belongings were already packed up this afternoon." He closed his eyes and asked, "What exactly do you want to do?" Looking at Shen Liangzhou's cold expression that kept me at arm's length. My eyes reddened as I uncontrollably choked out, "I don't want a divorce anymore." Afraid he wouldn't believe me, I stepped forward and actively hugged him. He suddenly stiffened, his fingers curling. I pressed my advantage, nuzzling his neck. "Shen Liangzhou, I regret it. Let's not get divorced." "Okay." The next moment, he coldly pushed me away, his eyes concealing barely perceptible pain. "I can smell alcohol on you." He mocked himself. What? Trying to use me as Zhou Yang's substitute again? Deliberately seducing me just to humiliate me. Once, to get back at him, I deliberately got drunk and got close to him, but his restrained aloofness completely infuriated me. If he's truly this principled, why did he touch me that night and even publicize the video? In a fit of anger, I stripped off my clothes and rushed into the bathroom. With him stunned, I hooked my arms around his neck and kissed him. I pressed forward step by step. From initial indifference, he gradually crumbled. Surrendering sweetly to my venting, the pattering water sounds mingled with indistinct voices. Who knows whose? He suddenly pinned me against the wall. With a decadent smile, I wrapped my arms around his neck and teased him by hooking my leg around his waist. As he was lost in his obsession, I leaned close to his ear and, with a laugh, vengefully called out Zhou Yang's name. To this day, I still remember his shattered and desolate expression. Now that he doesn't trust me, I have only myself to blame. I looked at him helplessly, my eyes brimming with tears. Seeing me cry so intensely, Shen Liangzhou lowered his eyes and said with self-abandonment, "Forget it, I spoke too much." Before leaving, "Have a piece of cake with our son." He turned and left, the moonlight bleak and desolate. In our past life, there were too many regrets between us, and now I don't want to miss him again. Clenching my fists, I mustered all my courage and threw myself at him. Kissing his lips the moment his pupils trembled violently. He has a cold demeanor, yet his lips were unexpectedly soft. I tentatively licked with the tip of my tongue. He abruptly gripped my waist, his voice tight and hoarse. "Xiao Han, don't provoke me. I'm not like before, letting you humiliate me." I kissed him deeper, going all in. "If I lie to you again, just lock me up, okay? Make it so I can never leave you." Shen Liangzhou's breathing suddenly grew heavy. Like a beast slowly tearing away its cold disguise. In my past life, I only learned by chance that Shin Liangzhou had prepared a basement room. It's all my belongings inside, yet the one who locked it was himself. During those years of divorce, he went mad, afraid he couldn't resist locking me away. He locked himself up first. I held him tighter. Shin Liangzhou, this time I'm truly. Suddenly, a blinding light flashed, and horns blared wildly. Shin Liangzhou suddenly came to his senses. He instinctively shielded me behind him. Zhou Yang sat in the car, glaring at Shin Liangzhou with a sinister gaze. The next moment, Shin Liangzhou's phone rang. Zhou Yang's gloomy, provocative voice came through the phone. Make her come down. Shin Liangzhou hung up the phone expressionlessly. He turned to look at me, his Adam's apple bobbing with difficulty. It's your freedom to like Zhou Yang, but I don't want the child to see it. He's still young, and you're the mother he cares about most. Count me in, I beg you. My eyes widened in shock. He wouldn't think that I deliberately called Zhou Yang here to provoke him, would he? When returning from the balcony, Xingxing was eagerly holding up a small cake. Seeing me come out, he excitedly ran a few steps holding the cake. When our eyes met, his little face turned red, and he shyly walked over. Mom, the first piece is for you. Afraid I might refuse, he kept watching me nervously, his tiny eyebrows furrowed into a shape. I took a bite, and his eyes instantly curved into little crescents. It's very sweet, I said. The little star spun around in delight. Sigh. The little ones are so much easier to please than the grown-ups. I looked at Shin Liangzhou. The slight curve of his lips instantly straightened. Suddenly, there came a violent knocking at the door from outside. Shin Liangzhou's face turned as cold as a block of ice. I wanted to ignore it, but the knocking outside grew louder and louder. Xingxing cast a fearful glance toward the door. I softly reassured, don't be afraid, Xingxing. Mom's colleague needs to talk to her about something. Let me go handle it, and you can eat your cake first, okay? Hearing this, Xingxing's little face scrunched up. He clutched my skirt tightly, refusing to let go. Shin Liangzhou said sternly, Xingxing. Xingxing glared at Shin Liangzhou resentfully, reluctantly letting go of his hand, then looked at me with eager eyes. Mommy, I'll wait for you to come back. I patted his head. Don't worry, Mommy will definitely come back to celebrate your birthday with you. Only then did a smile return to Xingxing's face. Before leaving, Shin Liangzhou stood by the entrance, gazing at me with a heavy expression. Why make promises you can't keep? The stars are stubborn. If he doesn't see you come home tonight, he won't go to sleep. Does he think I'm leaving? I paused while changing my shoes and called Zhou Yang outside right in front of him. Henin, are you okay? Did Shin Liangzhou pressure you again? Hearing this, Shin Liangzhou lowered his eyes and turned to leave. I firmly grabbed his hand and said to Zhou Yang, Shin Liangzhou didn't force me. Now I need to celebrate my son's birthday. Please leave. I did have feelings for Zhou Yang before. We grew up together, and I developed a secret crush on him in my youth, but he always pretended not to notice, neither rejecting nor accepting my feelings. Even that drunken incident had his hand behind it, simply because he wanted to snatch an important project from Shin Liangzhou and make him the target of public criticism. Unfortunately, by the time I found out, it was already too late. Haven't you already gotten divorced? As Shin Liangzhou's fingers slipped from my palm, I forcibly interlocked our hands and shouted at Zhou Yang, this is a matter between husband and wife. Zhou Yang, you've crossed the line. Zhou Yang sneered. Henin, are you angry with me? Fine, don't regret it. Moments later, the sound of a car engine starting came from outside. I looked at Shin Liangzhou expectantly, waiting for praise. He merely glanced at me before turning away. Your son is waiting for you. Could it be that he thinks I'm using him to deliberately make Zhou Yang jealous? This is infuriating. If gentle persuasion doesn't work, should we try being tough with him? Maybe tying him up and teaching him a lesson will make him behave. 5. Xingxing was unusually hyper tonight. It took both me and Shin Liangzhou taking turns to finally get him to sleep. When I came out of the shower barefoot, wearing Shin Liangzhou's shirt, he was sitting there with silver-framed glasses on, holding our son's storybook, noble and elegant, irresistibly alluring yet restrained. His gaze paused, lingering on my fair neck for just a moment before he restrainedly looked away. He closed his eyes and asked, Xiao Han, what are you trying to do now? There are no clothes of mine here, so I can only wear yours. I clumsily stepped on my own foot in confusion. Shin Liangzhou quickened his pace. Go to bed early, in my haste to catch up. I slipped and fell on the wet floor. Shin Liangzhou halted abruptly, his expression tense as he picked me up with a furrowed brow. It's nothing serious, just a bruised knee. While he was spraying the medicine for me, I lifted my foot and stepped on his bulging chest, deliberately revealing that glimpse of skin beneath the shirt hem. but Shen Liangzhou's adherence to male virtue is downright outrageous. With a cold gaze, he used his own pajamas to dry my damp foot, then stood up to leave, furious. I flipped over and sat astride his waist. Shen Liangzhou, I want you. He looked up at me, his breath tight, yet his expression remained cold and stubborn. You just want to humiliate me, don't you? Sensing something, I shifted lower. Just as I'd expected. What a stubborn mouth. The veins on his neck bulged instantly. Shen Liangzhou turned his face away in panic, his neck and chest flushing red. Rising and falling with barely suppressed breaths, I roughly grabbed his hair. Forcing his neck to fully expose itself to my gaze, I demanded arrogantly, Shen Liangzhou, I'm already like this, satisfy me. He closed his eyes bitterly, as if willingly falling into a trap. Furious, I nibbled his earlobe and whispered breathlessly, husband, look at me. His knuckles pressing against the sheets instantly tensed, fingertips turning white. I kissed my way upward, lifting the hem of his pajamas like soothing a puppy, my fingers exploring inside. He trembled slightly, still unmoved. As if resisting me, or perhaps resisting the self within, I could only hold him tighter, wanting him to believe that all of this was my own willing choice. I bit open the buttons one by one, leaving his pajamas crumpled. His unique cold fragrance ran rampant at the tip of my nose, stirring my desires. Shen Liangzhou. I called his name over and over, my fingertips tracing over his Adam's apple as it bobbed. When my fingers pressed against his lower abdomen, his eyes darkened abruptly. Like a beast breaking free from its cage, suddenly pinning me down on the bed, he held me from behind, pressing tightly against me, pushing into me. The pounding heartbeat was deafening through the chest cavity. I couldn't help curling my toes, both anticipating and fearful. Moments later, Shen Liangzhou said hoarsely, Xiao Han, don't push me. It's not worth it just to prove a point. 6. The more gentlemanly he acts, the more determined I am to tear off his disguise completely. I twisted my waist and called his name impatiently. His undeniable presence made me feel certain of victory. Pushed to his limit, Shen Liangzhou uttered hoarsely, Xiao Han. I nuzzle lightly against his neck. Suddenly, he scoops up my waist and flips me over, with hands braced beside my ears. His eyes darken as he kisses me fiercely. Even my breath is stolen away. He seemed intent on teaching me a harsh lesson, making me pay for my earlier provocation. My mind was in chaos. My eyes were misty with unshed tears. Shen Liangzhou, clinging to his last shred of rationality, glared at me fiercely. You can still leave now if you want to. How could I? I wouldn't miss this for the world. I wrapped my arms around his neck and kissed him first. Answering him wordlessly, finally got what I wished for. I tightly gripped his fingers, my eyes moist. Shen Liangzhou. As soon as I opened my mouth, he covered it with his hand. It's too late to beg for mercy now. He flipped me over, forcing me to kneel at the head of the bed. He pressed against my waist and growled viciously, Xiao Han, you asked for this. 7. In my past life, Shen Liangzhou always maintained a cold and distant demeanor in front of me. He would rather lock himself away than harm me, so much so that I never expected the beast unleashed tonight to be so ferocious, calm, composed, and disciplined. These were my greatest misconceptions about Shen Liangzhou. Wait, the moment I opened my mouth, he pinched my chin and kissed me, completely silencing my words. Words shattered, unable to resist, only to endure. Finally found a chance to beg for mercy. Shen Liangzhou wore a hurt expression that seemed to say, what trick are you playing now? So I swallowed all my words. He has suffered for too long. Smiling, I clung to his shoulders and kissed his furrowed brow. Shen Liangzhou, whatever you want to do, it's all yours. I'll give you everything. Suddenly tamed, his movements became gentle. Feeling dampness against my neck, Shen Liangzhou pressed close to my ear and whispered a threat. Xiao Han, if you dare deny this tomorrow, I'll do exactly as you said. Lock you away. Lock me away. I murmured in agreement. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was Zhou Yang. My sweaty fingers were about to hang up. My finger trembled and accidentally hit answer. The voice from the phone came through intermittently. Sis, Yang Ji is drunk and keeps making a scene demanding to see you. We can't handle him. Could you come over? The person who had just calmed down became agitated again. I couldn't help but start worrying about my waist. Get lost. I gritted my teeth and hung up the phone. I had finally managed to calm Shen Liangzhou down. And now all that effort went down the drain. On the verge of breaking down, I held on to Shen Liangzhou and spoke in broken, incoherent words. Shen Liangzhou, I don't like basements. They're pitch black. Could you lock me in a room with windows? I love beautiful flowers. Plant a circle of them outside, preferably so I can see them the moment I open the window. Ah, Shen Liangzhou suddenly froze, wrapping around me like an octopus. pressing me tightly against his chest, his voice alluring. So spoiled, who told you to be my husband? What did you call me, honey? My back will probably be wrecked by tomorrow morning. He carried me to the window to admire the moonlight, pointing at the lawn below as he meticulously planned which flower varieties to plant, lots and lots of them, until I completely lost consciousness. 8. I woke up groggily to find Shen Liangzhou wiping me down. I muttered something unconsciously before falling into a deep sleep. Waking up again felt like a lifetime had passed. The heavy curtains blocked out all light. A pair of eyes gazed at me with near greed. You're awake. Shen Liangzhou sat by the bed, having watched me for who knows how long. When I looked at him, his eyes remained cold, staring at the scratches on his chest and back. My face grew hot. Last night, yeah, you were drunk. Shen Liangzhou spoke flatly as he threw off the covers and got out of bed. No. I panicked and chased after them, only to collapse back onto the bed in pain. Damn it, you can't just make me work all night for nothing. Are you okay? This is all your fault. I punched him in the chest. Shen Liangzhou looked ashamed. Sorry, I even had lunch in bed, slept straight through until 5 p.m. When I opened my eyes again, Shen Liangzhou was in a video conference. Xingxing, coming home from school, tiptoed at the doorway, peering in but too afraid to enter. He kept poking his head in and out, looking several times. Seeing I was awake, he spread his arms and rushed over like a firecracker. Unfortunately, halfway through, his dad grabbed him by the collar and picked him up. Xingxing squirmed in Shen Liangzhou's arms. Dad, can you give mom to me now? Please, please. Have you finished the homework the teacher assigned? Xingxing puffed out his little chest. Finished. Well then, Dad will accompany you to practice the piano. Huh, Xingxing pouted in frustration. Dad, how could you do this? 9. After finishing my morning routine, I was worrying about not having well-fitting clothes to wear, only to find the walk-in closet filled with current designer dresses. Feeling jealous now, I curled my lips into a smile. After changing clothes and stepping out, I saw the two of them playing piano in the living room. Xingxing kept stealing glances at me while practicing the piano. Shen Liangzhou mercilessly called him out. Can't focus on two things at once, the little star retorted unwillingly. But Dad was clearly peeking too. Watching this scene, I felt my nose tingling with emotion again. At the dinner table, Little Star said he had a red flower taken away today. Mom, do you want to know why I had a red flower taken away? He blinked his eyes, his face screaming, ask me now. With urgency, I asked, why? He looked at Shen Liangzhou. I also turned my gaze toward Shen Liangzhou. Under our expectant gazes, Shen Liangzhou said indifferently, ask him yourself. Xingxing hesitated to speak, then finally flushed red and lowered her small head. Alright, it was me being late for school. Only then did Shen Liangzhou chuckle lightly, because I wanted to wait to have breakfast with you, and ended up being late for school. Ah, Xingxing immediately covered her face, peeking at me through her fingers. Both of them are secretly flirtatious, but, with an apologetic expression, I said, sorry Xingxing. Mom really couldn't get up this morning, however. I can have dinner with you. He became excited again. In the evening, Shen Liangzhou was taking a shower inside, listening to the sounds. I pushed the door open and leaned against the doorway to watch. Water dripped from his lashes as he looked at me. I said shamelessly, don't like being watched. Shen Liangzhou's eyelashes fluttered slightly. I raised the corner of my eye. Want to tonight? His wet hand grasped mine and pulled me in. My hand pressed against his chest. You haven't answered me yet. After a moment of silence, he resignedly said, yes, from the bathroom all the way to the bed, until there was a knock at the door. Shen Liangzhou was gathering his strength when I suddenly laughed in his arms. With a dark expression, he put on his clothes and went to open the door. Xingxing hugged his little pillow. Mom, Dad, I had a nightmare. He craned his neck to peek into the bedroom. Can we still have a story today? You're a big boy, right, but I'm clearly just a baby. 5 minutes later, Xingxing was sleeping between us as Shen Liangzhou put on his glasses and began reading a fairy tale. Waiting for the stars to fall asleep, Shen Liangzhou carried him back. Yawning and drowsy, Shen Liangzhou pressed against my waist, full of resentment. Continue. 10. The next day, I received flowers from Zhou Yang. He made a grand display, having them delivered to the house, clearly intending to provoke Shen Liangzhou. On weekends, the stars are there too. With a gossipy expression, he asked, did Dad give these to Mom? Shen Liangzhou lowered his eyes, deliberately avoiding the question. I immediately threw the flowers into the trash can, no matter how I explained. Shen Liangzhou's reaction remained indifferent. Furious, I grabbed his tie. Come to think of it, you've never given me flowers. Do you even like me at all? Shen Liangzhou looked down at me with a bitter expression. Xiao Han, you don't have to. I tried hard to blink my stinging eyes, forcing out tears. Shen Liangzhou panicked. I didn't. I turned my back, saying with a sob in my voice, I won't listen. Henin. Shen Liangzhou fell silent for a moment before confessing. I shouldn't have doubted you. I turned and hugged him, confessing honestly. Shen Liangzhou, I did have feelings for Zhou Yang once, but that was a long time ago. I stopped liking him ages ago. The person I love now is you. Let's live well together with our son from now on. Okay. Shen Liangzhou's words carried immense weight, striking my heart with a tremor. Tears rolled down silently. That very evening, Shen Liangzhou hired a gardener to transform the lawn into a flower bed. Recalling the absurdities from the night before last, I couldn't help but blush. Shen Liangzhou was guiding everything from below. Xingxing, being at that playful age, squatted alone in a corner digging holes and planting flowers, getting herself covered in mud. Then she rushed to me excitedly like presenting a treasure. Mommy, these are the flowers Xingxing planted for you. They'll definitely be prettier than all the flowers in the yard. This is what the stars have nurtured with love. His face turned red as he squirmed shyly. Shen Liangzhou stood nearby, watching him coolly. If you water it any more, you'll drown the flowers. Ah, little star hugged the small shovel, his face pale. 11. Shen Liangzhou carried the little clay figurine into the bathroom. Just as I was immersed in this joyful parent-child moment, Zhou Yang's call suddenly came through. I hung up immediately, and the next moment, he called again from an unknown number. Sis. Brother Yan drank until he got a stomach hemorrhage and was hospitalized. Can you come see him? I said. Since he's in the hospital, the doctors taking care of him should be enough. The next moment, Zhou Yang's weak voice came through. Henin, I know you're only enduring staying by Shen Liangzhou's side for the sake of the child. I can also help take good care of Xingxing. I'll be a good father. How come I never noticed before that Zhou Yang is completely nuts? Shen Liangzhou happened to hear the sentence as he stepped out of the shower. He clenched his fists and brushed past me. Damn, if we don't properly handle this matter with Zhou Yang, the rift between me and Shen Liangzhou will always remain. I rushed over and hugged Shen Liangzhou, saying to Zhou Yang, send me the address. Then I dragged Shen Liangzhou into the bedroom. Shen Liangzhou's expression was gloomy. Xiao Han, can't keep up the act anymore. What's with the act? Change your clothes. I slapped his butt. This shameless scoundrel is hitting on a married woman, and you're just going to stand by as her husband. Shen Liangzhou's face flushed slightly red. By the time I finished packing and reached the doorway, Shen Liangzhou was already waiting at the entrance. The suit and tie look was kinda hot. Suddenly in the car, he asked, would you feel bad if I took action? Shen Liangzhou's question didn't sound like a joke. I immediately replied, I'd only feel bad for you. My dear husband. Shen Liangzhou's domineering cold face turned redder and redder. 12. Pushing the door open, Zhou Yang's eyebrows lifted triumphantly when he saw me, until he spotted Shen Liangzhou behind me. His smile instantly froze. Henin, what do you mean by this? I linked arms with Shen Liangzhou. Weren't you hospitalized for gastric hemorrhage? My husband and I came to visit you together. Are you mad at me? Right. Zhou Yang looked at Shen Liangzhou behind me with certainty. But my blind date with the Song family's daughter was all arranged by my family. I interrupted Zhou Yang. I don't know about your affairs with Miss Song, nor do I want to, but I'm already married. Please stop doing things that trouble me from now on. In my past life, when Shen Liangzhou and I reconciled, Zhou Yang suddenly started pursuing me frantically. By then, he was already engaged to the Song family, and Miss Song was even pregnant with his child. Yet he was willing to sever ties with the Song family just to reserve that wife position for me. Looking back now, it only feels ironic. In my youth, I hinted at him countless times, but to reject me, he dated one girlfriend after another right in front of me. Later when I completely gave up, he selfishly used me to scheme against Shen Liangzhou, simply because he accidentally found out that Shen Liangzhou had a crush on me. After Shen Liangzhou and I became an established fact, he started playing the savior, claiming to rescue me from misery. He was merely exploiting my hatred for Shen Liangzhou to deal with him. Later, when I learned the truth and reconciled with Shen Liangzhou, he lunged at me like a mad dog. I curled my lips into a sneer and said mockingly, Zhou Yang, don't act as if you love me so much. 5 years ago, it was you who drugged my drink and sent me to Shen Liangzhou's bed. It was you who made me live each day filled with resentment. After a moment of panic, Zhou Yang grew furious and retorted, did Shen Liangzhou tell you this? Henin, how could you believe him over me? After all these years we've known each other, how could I do such a thing? He was the one who drugged you. He just wanted to trap you. Slap. I slapped him so hard my hand was trembling with rage. So it was you after all. In my past life, outsiders only knew Shin Liangzhou forced me while drunk, unaware we'd both been drugged. At that time, Shin Liangzhou only claimed he had forced himself on me to protect my reputation. Back then, I didn't believe him, convinced he had drugged me, and mocked him as a hypocrite. Panic finally appeared on Zhou Yang's face. No, let's not meet again. The sight of you disgusts me. Shin Liangzhou heartbrokenly rubbed my reddened palms as we turned and walked out of the hospital room together. Henin, let me explain, Zhou Yang shouted hoarsely. Followed by the sound of him falling off the hospital bed, he lay on the ground wailing repeatedly. Henin, my leg hurts so much. Once I was kidnapped, and Zhou Yang took a knife to his thigh while saving me. Whenever it rains or the weather changes, his wound starts aching. My steps faltered. Shin Liangzhou gripped my wrist, no longer avoiding but pleading in a low voice. Don't look back, okay? I clasped Shin Liangzhou's hand in return and strode out. 13. Once in the car, Shin Liangzhou looked at me with guilt. When did you find out? I wasn't sure if I should tell him that I was reborn from the future. Such an earth-shattering matter. Even if I told him, he probably wouldn't believe it. I simply said, not long ago. Shin Liangzhou held me tightly, his voice hoarse as he said. That day, I'm sorry. I hugged him back and replied, why are you apologizing? You're a victim too. I do. He held me tighter little by little. If I didn't like you, you wouldn't have to suffer such injustice. That night, both Shin Liangzhou and I were drugged, driven by instinct, unable to distinguish right from wrong. Afterwards, I hated him to the core. Also because I mistakenly believed he resorted to unscrupulous means to have me. After marriage, I often felt confused when interacting with him. He was clearly disciplined and followed propriety, treating me with great respect, but my vision was clouded by hatred. Moreover, during my pregnancy, my mother threatened to take her own life to force me to keep the child, saying that if I aborted it, Shin Liangzhou would take action against my family. During that period, my relationship with Shin Liangzhou hit rock bottom. Looking back now, I realize it was probably my parents deceiving me intentionally to climb the social ladder by clinging to the Shin family. 14. Soon, it was the 5th wedding anniversary for Shin Liangzhou and me. I planned to give Shin Liangzhou a surprise. After leaving Xingxing with the babysitter, I booked a restaurant and had just sent Shin Liangzhou an invitation message when I received a call from my elder brother Xiaoyi. Brother, what's wrong? His voice was urgent. Mom suddenly fainted. She's in the hospital emergency now. Come quickly. I was about to ask for details when he hung up the phone. My heart burned with anxiety as I grabbed my bag and rushed out. When I arrived, Mom was lying unconscious on the hospital bed. What did the doctor say? How could she suddenly faint? Henin, don't panic yet. Have some water first and calm down. I took the water my elder brother handed me, drank it, and asked, what exactly happened to Mom? Xiaoyi looked at me and suddenly smiled. Nothing serious, it's nothing serious. How could I faint? Suddenly, a wave of dizziness hit me. I shook my head and looked at my family in shock. You, completely lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself locked in my old room. The door was bolted shut, impossible to open. I looked around, then picked up a chair and started smashing it against the door. Xiaoyi, get your ass over here. Before long, Xiaoyi walked in while fiddling with my phone. Xiaohan, in the years since you got married, you haven't gained any skills, but your temper has certainly grown. I watched him warily. What do you want? Of course, your brother just wants to help you. He smiled as he handed me the phone. We really are siblings, sharing the same wavelength. You even came up with an excuse for me in advance. I said nervously, what are you planning to do to Shin Liangzhou? He laughed. Haven't you always wanted to divorce Shin Liangzhou? Just wait and see Shin Liangzhou's reputation ruined and taken away by the police. Guess how many years he'll get for the crime of rape. But don't worry, I'll help you fight for custody of your son, Shin Liangzhou's family assets too. I pushed him away and ran out, only to be yanked back onto the bed by Xiaoyi. Henin, I'm doing this to help you get revenge. If I ask him to drink in your name, do you think he'd actually drink it? I grabbed his hand and stared at him fiercely. So 5 years ago, when I was drugged and sent to Shin Liangzhou's bed, you allowed that too. Xiaoyi laughed at my naivety. My dear sister, you're only realizing this now. You should thank Shin Liangzhou for liking you. Otherwise, who knows whose bed you might have ended up in. My whole body turned cold. My heart ached to the point of numbness. Xiaoyi, you're my own brother. So isn't it only natural for you, as my sister, to sacrifice for me? With a loud slam, the bedroom door was locked again. 15. I grabbed a chair and desperately smashed it against the door, but it was all in vain. I was sprawled awkwardly against the door, Suddenly, a gust of wind blew by. I turned to look out the window, second floor, with the lawn right below. I made up my mind, adrenaline surging. I don't know how I found the courage to jump, until waves of dull pain exploded across my body. I curled up on the ground for a while, then got up, slipped into the garage, and drove one out at full speed. I knew the restaurant's address if Shaui was going to strike. He'd only book the hotel upstairs, can't call the police. Shaui found a woman to frame him, and might even turn the tables when the time comes. This kind of thing is simply impossible to explain clearly. Only when I arrived at the hotel did I realize that Shaui had actually used my ID card to book the room. I ran all the way, hoping to make it in time. Reaching the door, I frantically pounded on it. Shen Liangzhou, open up. The door opened a crack, and suddenly, a hand yanked me inside. Shen Liangzhou pressed me against the door with an intimidating presence. Xiao Han, are you here to catch me cheating? He whispered darkly in my ear, but I'm afraid you'll be disappointed. I tried to turn around, but he pinned me against the door, immobile. Shen Liangzhou, it wasn't me. I'm sorry, I'm late. Shen Liangzhou's grip suddenly loosened, and he fell into my arms, his body burning with fever. Shen Liangzhou, I held him tightly, panicking. Call an ambulance. Yes, call an ambulance. Shen Liangzhou grabbed my hand, struggling to say, wait a moment. Wait for what? Until I saw a woman in the room, bound tightly to a chair with sheets, screaming and struggling. Shortly after, his bodyguards took the woman away from the room. Shen Liangzhou had also reached his limit of endurance, clenching his teeth and arching his back. His entire body trembled from the effects of the drug. A tempting flush spreads across the skin. Beads of sweat rolled down. I held him tenderly, kissing his trembling eyelashes. Let me help you. Okay, no. Hanin will be upset. She'll blame me. She hates me most for forcing her. He seemed to recall that day 5 years ago, and was desperately restraining himself. I watched as he clawed bloody marks into his own arm to maintain his sanity. But soon he couldn't restrain himself from pressing against me again. He rubbed against me while growling at himself in self-loathing. Tie me up, please, tie me up. I was also afraid he might hurt himself, so I used his belt to tie him to the chair. He tilted his head back, presenting his neck like a willing sacrifice, exuding an aura that invited cruelty. I pressed against his tense thigh. He growled at me to get lost. I took the opportunity to sit on his lap and teased, you let me tie you up, didn't you? Just so I could do whatever I want. No, actions speak louder than words. I leaned down and bit his lips. He was a trapped beast, struggling fiercely yet completely at my mercy. Don't. The chair could barely contain him. I said maliciously, beg me. Shen Liangzhou gritted his teeth and held on for a long time, but ultimately pressed against my shoulder and pleaded in a low voice, please, good boy, until the sky turned pale. 16. The next day, when Shen Liangzhou's assistant brought him clothes, he was so frightened by the ligature marks on both wrists that he didn't dare to breathe. The look in their eyes towards me held a bit more admiration. Alright, I did go a bit overboard last night, but who could resist Shen Liangzhou's allure? Shen Liangzhou leisurely changed his clothes. My gaze kept drifting to his wrists, and within seconds, Shen Liangzhou was blushing from the attention. Ahem. After a long while, Shen Liangzhou looked at me and asked, how do you plan to handle what happened last night? Let's report it to the police. My brother was involved too. He's the kind of person who won't stop until he gets what he wants. After saying this, I couldn't describe the mixed feelings in my heart. I never imagined my own family would treat me this way. I've always known that in their eyes, profit comes above all else, but I never expected that I was just a tool for them to achieve their goals. Shen Liangzhou held me and comforted me. You still have me by your side. In my past life, after I divorced Shen Liangzhou, I never paid attention to his news again. Occasionally, I heard rumors in the circle that Shen Liangzhou had late-night meetings with young models, but as soon as this incident surfaced, it was quickly suppressed. Later on, Xingxing encountered a kidnapping. Now I can't help but suspect Shaui. Shen Liangzhou's parents passed away early, leaving the vast business empire entirely under his management. This is indeed too tempting. Or perhaps, even the fire in the previous life was man-made. The more I think about it, the more frightened I become. I grabbed Shen Liangzhou's arm and said, Shen Liangzhou, I need to confess something to you. Just as I was about to speak, a phone ringtone interrupted me. After Shen Liangzhou answered the call, his expression changed. I felt inexplicably panicked and asked nervously, what's wrong? Shen Liangzhou hung up the phone, gently touched my cheek, and reassured me with a smile. There's a minor issue at the company that I need to handle. You stay here and rest. Shen Liangzhou called a few bodyguards to protect me before leaving in a hurry. My heart suddenly grew even more uneasy. 17. The moment I got my phone, I immediately called Shen Liangzhou. No answer. This made me even more panicked, until I managed to contact his personal assistant. President Shen is on a business trip these few days and should be on a plane right now. Madam, there's no need to worry too much. Today's matter is somewhat urgent, but President Shen will definitely return your call as soon as he gets off the plane. After hanging up the phone, my mind still couldn't calm down. I was in a hurry to go back when the bodyguard who had been following me closely suddenly stopped me. Madam, President Shen has instructed that you stay here these few days. He's worried your brother might do something to you again. My heart suddenly clenched. What about my son? Don't worry, madam. We've already sent someone to fetch him. Last night, Xiaoyi's scheme failed. At this moment, sending Shen Liangzhou away means his target can only be Xingxing. Could it be that in the previous life, he was the one who sent people to kidnap Xingxing? Is Xiaoyi out of his mind? In the past life, Shen Liangzhou lost half his life trying to save his son. When I arrived, he was lying in the hospital covered in blood. Xingxing was so frightened that she was beside herself, clinging to me and crying uncontrollably. After that, we continued seeing a psychologist for over half a year. It was also during this period that my relationship with Shen Liangzhou gradually improved. But shouldn't this be something that happens 3 years later? I rushed out. I'm going to pick up my son myself. The bodyguard stopped me, all looking troubled. A terrible guess suddenly came to me. Has something happened to my son, 18? In this life, I was still one step too late. When I rushed to the hospital, Shen Liangzhou was lying in the operating room undergoing emergency treatment. On the way to the emergency room, my legs were so weak I could barely stand, a terrifying sense of suffocation, as if fate had me by the throat. Until I saw Xingxing lying there crying uncontrollably. He was terrified, and upon seeing me, he threw himself into my arms sobbing, "Mommy, Daddy is bleeding so much." I held him tight, collapsing to the ground, as if comforting him and also myself. "Don't be afraid, Daddy will definitely be okay," until the stars grew weary from crying and fell asleep. I wiped away my tears, pulled myself together, and looked at Assistant Fawn beside me, and the gentleman in a suit next to him. "And this is?" I asked. "I am the lawyer commissioned by Mr. Shen. My surname is Su. Some time ago, Mr. Shen entrusted me to draft a will. If anything were to happen to him, I would need to make this will public. I know this might seem somewhat inauspicious to you." Did Shen Liangzhou actually consider even this? I let out a bitter laugh and turned to Assistant Fong. "Have you called the police?" Assistant Fong hesitated before speaking. President Shen didn't authorize calling the police. How could he be so foolish? In the previous life, did he also keep this from me like this, afraid it would break my heart? For my sake, he was driven to this point by Xiaoyi and his people. I'll report it. 19. That night, the stars slept extremely restlessly, frequently startled awake by nightmares. It wasn't until the sky turned pale that Shen Liangzhou was finally wheeled out of the emergency room. He was temporarily out of danger and transferred to the ICU. When Assistant Fong told me this news, I stood up too abruptly and fainted on the spot. When I came to, Xingxing was clutching my fingers, crying so hard her eyes were swollen. Assistant Fong was tending nearby. "Xingxing was terrified when she saw you faint." I immediately hugged Xingxing. "Mommy was just too tired. Mommy, I'm scared." Xingxing burrowed desperately into my arms. "It's okay, Mommy will always be with Xingxing. Shall we go see Daddy together?" Xingxing nodded. Since visiting hours hadn't started yet, I held Xingxing's hand and watched from afar through the ICU window. 3 days later, Shen Liangzhou woke up and was transferred from the ICU to a general ward. The police also came to take our statements several times. 1 week after Shen Liangzhou regained consciousness, Xiaoyi and Zhou Yang were apprehended. For my brother's sake, my parents begged me several times, but I didn't even meet with them. Xiaoyi hurt the person I care about most in my life. He must pay the price. 20. After Shen Liangzhou was discharged from the hospital, we held a make-up wedding ceremony. All the regrets from 5 years ago, we're making up for them now. The wedding was grand and magnificent. When Shen Liangzhou saw me in the wedding dress, his eyes turned red. Xingxing was dressed in pink, holding flowers with another little girl, serving as flower girls together. The wedding was more exhausting than I imagined. By the end of the day, I lay in bed, not even wanting to move a finger. Shen Liangzhou gave me a bath. Just as we snuggled under the covers after bathing, Xingxing started knocking on the door with his little pillow in hand. As soon as the door opened, he tried to rush in with his pillow but was stopped by Shen Liangzhou at the doorway. "Daddy, I want a bedtime story." Xingxing pouted discontentedly. Shen Liangzhou crouched down to reason with him. "Xingxing, tonight is the day Daddy and Mommy got married, so what?" Even in his final moments of life, he was still apologizing to me. "Fine," Xing said with a tearful face, turning back every few steps. When I was exhausted and drowsy, Shen Liangzhou suddenly hugged me and whispered in my ear. During those days I was unconscious. I had a very long dream. I dreamed we got divorced, but later reconciled. As Shen Liangzhou kept speaking, I suddenly burst into tears. "Why are you crying?" Shen Liangzhou panicked as he wiped my tears. "It was just a dream. I was only joking." I shook my head, hugged him and said, "Shen Liangzhou, let's have another child. I hope it's a daughter. But it would be so hard on you. Having Xing is enough. But I want to." I rolled over and lay on top of him. "Tonight is our wedding night. You won't let me down, will you?" With just a light tease, Shen Liangzhou's gaze towards me grew more desirous. "I'll make sure my wife is satisfied." Story 2. I am an orphan girl fostered in the Jiang family. The elders of the Jiang family asked Jiangdu to marry me. I happily married Jiangdu. He didn't refuse either. However, after the marriage, he was indifferent to me. Later, he simply used the excuse of doing business to live apart from me in different places for a long time. My mother-in-law disliked that I hadn't given birth to a child for the Jiang family. She showed me a cold face everywhere. I spent my entire life waiting for Jiangdu and serving my mother-in-law. Exhausted both physically and mentally, I lay on the hospital bed. As my husband, Jiangdu didn't come to see me for the last time. Instead, Sun Siyu kindly told me that Jiangdu was preparing for his wedding with her and didn't have time to see me. Adu said that he will hold the wedding with me right after you die. Feng Wen, you have been the wife of the Jiang family for more than 30 years. My child and I have no status. You should be content. Only then did I know that Jiangdu actually had another family outside. He had a lover and a child. I was the only one who was all alone. When I opened my eyes again, I went back to the time when I was in the Jiang family. Jiangdu's mother was still joking. Wen, do you like our Jiangdu? I don't like him anymore. In this life, I want to do the things I truly like. 1. It seemed that I could still smell the smell of the disinfectant in the hospital at the tip of my nose. The torture of the illness was still there. In front of me was Jiangdu's mother, that is, my mother-in-law in my previous life, who was still asking, Wen, do you like our Jiangdu? What do you think of marrying Adu after graduation? In the living room were the friends of the Jiang family and my parents when they were alive. The woman was so kind and gentle, full of love. She was completely different from the difficult and fierce person in my memory of my previous life. Because Jiangdu and I spent very little time together, I had no chance to get pregnant at all. She found all sorts of ways to torture me. I had to drink the extremely bitter medicine for getting pregnant every day without fail. She invited the goddess of mercy for bestowing sons and ordered me to kneel in front of it every day and chant scriptures and pray. This was not the worst. The daily sarcastic remarks were what really made me feel suffocated. Not to mention that my mother-in-law asked me to serve her tea and water personally and give her massages. Whenever I showed any intention of resistance, she would wail and cry about the hardships of raising me. An orphan girl, she said that she treated me like her own daughter. She said that when I had nightmares as a child, it was she who hugged and comforted me. She said that when I was sick as a child, it was she who took care of me without taking off her clothes. This was my weakness, so I didn't resist. Wen, don't be shy, say something. My mother-in-law pushed me. Coming back to my senses, I met the woman's eyes that were full of eagerness. If I in my previous life could have observed more carefully, I would have found that this eagerness to match me and Jiangdu was actually eagerness to divide up my property. At that time, I was just a young lady who had been pampered since childhood. I had just experienced the great blow of losing both my parents, and I thought I had found a family and comfort in the Jiang family. How could I have thought so much? But now, I have experienced more than 30 years of a marriage in name only. I have experienced the torture when my mother-in-law tore off her disguise. I can see everything clearly now, so I stood up and smiled. Auntie, you seem to have misunderstood. I only regard Jiangdu as my elder brother. And after graduating from high school, I still want to go to university, too. My mother-in-law's face suddenly turned pale. Asking me today in front of everyone whether I liked Jiangdu was originally to confirm my marriage with Jiangdu. In this way, it would not be criticized for coaxing me to spend the property in my name. My mother-in-law quickly reacted. She naturally stood up and hugged me, and said to everyone, "This girl is just shy. Adu, take Wen for a walk in the garden." Jiangdu was sitting on the sofa opposite. The young Jiangdu, young, handsome, and a bit aloof. Since Jiangdu's father was a friend of my parents, Jiangdu and I could barely be considered childhood sweethearts, since I was a child. I liked to stick around him and ask him to play with me. When we were young, our relationship was quite good. Later, as we grew up, Jeondu became a bit distant from me. In my previous life, I didn't understand. I just thought that as we grew older, we should pay attention to the issue between men and women, but I didn't want to think that in fact, Jeondu was tired of me. I was a bit of a proud young lady and had a bad temper, yet he had to obey his parents' orders and do everything I asked. He didn't like me, but he couldn't get rid of me. Naturally, Jeondu was annoyed. If he just ignored me, that would be fine, but he married me instead. After marrying me, he allowed his mother to torture me. After marrying me, he was affectionate with Sun See You outside. I hated him. I hated myself even more. I was blinded by my feelings and lived such a miserable life. I clenched my fists and then slowly released them. I gently broke free from my mother-in-law's hug. I still had a smile on my face. It's okay, brother, you're going to meet classmates and see you later, right? If you like someone, you should bring them home early, one of the guests said. So Jeongdu already has someone he likes, then your mother is just matchmaking randomly. Only then did I look at Jeongdu directly. His face was even worse than my mother-in-law's. The corners of his eyes were slightly red. I didn't bother to look anymore. I greeted everyone present and left on my own. 3. After leaving the living room, I went straight to the mailbox in the front yard to search. Among the letters one by one, I finally saw the one with me as the recipient, Fengwen. Jeondu's voice came from behind. I quickly turned around and hid the letter behind my back. What kind of temper are you throwing today? I frowned. What's wrong? You confessed to me yesterday, and today you say you regard me as your brother. Can you change your habit of doing things on a whim? My mother treats you like her daughter. And you embarrassed my mother in public. I looked at him silently. I remembered my previous life. After the marriage, my mother-in-law also embarrassed me in front of others. I just complained to Jeondu about it once, and it caused his resentment. He said, "Isn't my mother good enough to you? You can't stand it when she says a few words." So now I also returned these words to him. Auntie treats me like her daughter. Can't a daughter say a few sincere words without being able to stand it? He was speechless. He let out a sigh. You're acting very strange. In his opinion, I was naturally acting strange. After all, after my parents passed away in my previous life, I truly regarded the Jeon family as my home. I changed my previous arrogant temperament, not to mention speaking back to my mother-in-law a few times, even to Jeongdu. I carefully tried to please him. I sneered. So, what are you angry about? Didn't you hate it when I chased after you? Now I say I don't like you. Just as you wish. I wanted to leave after saying that. I still had to open the letter in my hand, but Jeondu said, I don't have that intention. That doesn't matter. Those things don't matter. Jeondu, whether you love me or not is meaningless. Upon hearing this, Jeondu frowned. You don't like it when I say something nice either. Fengwen, you're still so difficult to get along with. After my parents passed away, I had no one to rely on, so. Jeondu's attitude towards me also changed a lot. He didn't dare to speak loudly to me before, but now he said in my face that I was difficult to get along with. Am I difficult to get along with? I just didn't act according to his wishes. The so-called saying nice words from him was just to stabilize me first. It would be best to coax me into getting engaged to him. In my previous life, right after the engagement, he used the excuse that the company's business expansion needed funds. He asked me to take out most of my assets to pave the way for him. At that time, private businesses were being liberalized. There were opportunities to get rich everywhere. With my help, Jeondu took over the real estate and non-staple food businesses in the entire Weiqing and became the richest man in the local area. During the more than 30 years of my loveless marriage, everyone envied me for being the wife of the richest man. But they didn't know that without me, Fengwen, Jeongdu, wouldn't have had the chance to reach such a height at all. In this life, let me stand at a high place. I'll just look down on the clowns in the Jeon family, watching them jump around and have their wild revelry until they bring about their own destruction. Too lazy to say more. I smiled. I'm just difficult to get along with. So what? If you don't like it, hold it in. 5. When I returned to my room, I couldn't wait to open the letter. In fact, I still have an uncle. He and my mother are half-siblings and now live in the United States. I met this uncle once. At that time, he came to our house to ask for help because he wanted to treat his old mother's illness. My parents gave him a lot of financial support and also introduced a good hospital to him. Later, our two families visited each other from time to time. We lost contact in recent years. In my previous life, I didn't know that in fact. My uncle went abroad to seek his fortune and accidentally became prosperous. It was already a year after he learned the news of my parents' car accident and death. He found out that I was adopted by the Jiang family, so he wrote to contact me. The letter was sent to our original home and then was transferred to the mailbox of the Jiang family. My mother-in-law always knew that there was a letter for me, but she chose to hide the letter and didn't say anything. It was only many years later that I knew that my uncle had been sending me money and letters all the time, but by then, it was already too late. After reading the letter, I learned that my uncle couldn't return to China for some reasons, so he chose to contact me by letter. The letter said that this was his 10th letter, and the content was no different from the previous ones. It was just to introduce his situation abroad and then comfort me. He asked me if I was willing to go to the United States. At that time, the United States was very advanced. It had top-notch education and majors at that time. There were $10 with a large amount in the letter, and there was also a plane ticket to the United States. My nose felt sour. It's so good. I'm not an orphan girl. I still have family. The boarding place is in the neighboring city of Shanghai, and the date is 4 days later. I pulled myself together. Next, I need to deal with the inheritance left by my parents. I won't touch the real estate. These locations are good, and there is hope for appreciation in the future. I will deposit the money separately. I'll take half of it abroad and leave half in the bank. Also, I don't know my uncle very well, so I need to make sure it's safe before I can get in touch with my uncle's family. 6. Fortunately, the college entrance examination was already over. I used the excuse of going to play with my classmates to go out. It's also convenient to deal with things. I happened to meet my classmates at the bank. They were delighted and said, "We were just going to look for you. Come on, let's go to the class reunion." The location of the reunion was chosen in the largest KTV in the city. At that time, singing karaoke was still a very fashionable thing. When I went there, Jiangdu was also there. Someone joked, "What's the matter? Fangwen isn't following you today." "Yeah, where's your little wife?" Jiangdu played with the lighter. "I'm so annoyed. I'm glad she's not here and I can have some peace. Also, I don't like Fangwen." The laughter of the crowd rose and fell. "Then who do you like?" "The class beauty in our class." People were making a ruckus and pushing Sensiyu towards Jiangdu. The female companion beside me felt a bit embarrassed and coughed twice. The colored lights were flashing, and then everyone noticed me. I walked up to everyone generously. "It's so lively, you can continue." Jiangdu instinctively protected Sensiyu. "Fangwen, what kind of trick are you going to play this time?" "A trick? I wished I could just stab these two people to death directly, but now nothing has happened yet. If I said that I was terribly harmed by these two people in my previous life, who would believe me?" I laughed. "Jiangdu, why didn't you say you hated me earlier? You're such a coward." I simply clapped my hands. "Well, if you don't welcome me, then I'll leave." Everyone didn't react. I had already pushed the door and gone out. Jiangdu followed closely behind. "Fangwen, listen to me." "Ah," Sensiyu fainted. There was an exclamation from my classmates behind. Jiangdu quickly left me behind. "Fangwen, what I said just now was just out of anger. I'll explain it to you later." Before he could finish speaking, he couldn't wait to rush to Sensiyu's side. I watched coldly and then turned around and left firmly. "There won't be another chance to explain. In 3 days, I will go to the United States. From now on, I will no longer think of you, and you don't think of me either." 7. The next day, I tidied up my room. I threw away what should be thrown away. My mother-in-law came over and indirectly asked me which university I was applying for. Of course, I wouldn't tell her that I was going to study abroad. I casually mentioned the name of Shanghai University to muddle through. While praising that Shanghai University was good, my mother-in-law rolled her eyes and brought up Jiangdu's marriage with me again. "You can get engaged first. It won't delay you and Adu from going to university." Before I could say the words of refusal, my mother-in-law changed the subject and comforted me. "I've already asked Adu. He and that Sensiyu are just ordinary classmates. You just like to think too much." She still wouldn't give up. I distanced myself from my mother-in-law. "Auntie, I really have no intention of Jiangdu." My mother-in-law still didn't believe me and quickly promised, "Good child, I will definitely make sure that Adu breaks up with that female classmate completely." These words happened to be heard by Jiangdu. He didn't figure out the situation and walked up to me in a few steps. The look in his eyes when he looked at me was full of disappointment and disgust. "Missy, do you have to make everyone revolve around you? Sensiyu is in poor health and her family condition is not good. I took a little more care of her. You just have to make it known all over the world and even tell my mother about it." As if venting his anger, He tugged at the crystal necklace in his hand. The crystal beads fell one after another. They rolled around and disappeared in all directions. I originally wanted to give this to you as an apology, but now it seems there's no need. I'll just tell you clearly, there's nothing between me and Sensiu. I won't distance myself from her because of you either. After venting his anger on me, Jiangdu kicked open the trash bin at the door that I used to throw away waste. The trash bin fell to the ground as he kicked it, and all sorts of things inside, such as dolls and small ornaments, rolled out one by one. Jiangdu's eyes suddenly turned red. These were all given to you by me. Yeah, I don't like them anymore. So I threw them away. As I said that, I kicked away the crystal beads that rolled to my feet. They were such annoying things. I will board the plane to the United States in 2 days. The distance from Weiqing to Shanghai is not short. I have to go to Shanghai in advance. My passport was already done when I went abroad for a trip before. I don't have many things either. The valuable jewelry, property certificates, etc. are all stored in the bank safe, coincidentally. Jiangdu's parents went to other cities to do business, so I won't say goodbye to them in person. They did take care of me for many years, but it was just for those inheritances. My uncle sent some money, but my mother-in-law of the Jiang family secretly kept it for herself. It was enough for my food, drinks, and daily expenses over the years. When I went out carrying a small suitcase, I met Jiangdu and Sensiu in the living room downstairs. The two of them seemed to have just come back from outside. The small suitcase in my hand caught Jiangdu's attention. He asked, "Where are you going? Are you going to complain to my mother again?" "I'm not interested in that." I motioned for the two of them not to block my way. "I'm going to play at a classmate's house. Auntie and the others know about it." I wasn't lying. I had indeed told my mother-in-law of the Jiang family that I would stay and play at a classmate's house for 2 days. Jiangdu was still in a bad mood and said indifferently, "Come back by yourself then. I won't come to pick you up." It didn't matter to me. Sensiu, who had been ignored, suddenly came over and said in a pitiful tone, "Classmate Feng Wen, I was just kicked out of my home and have nowhere to go. Jiangdu was kind enough to take me in. I heard from Aunt Jiang that you had an unpleasant experience with Jiangdu because of me." "I'm so sorry." "You don't need to say sorry to her." Jiangdu held Sensiu's wrist. "If she hadn't been so talkative, my mother wouldn't have bothered you." They really were a loving couple. I thought it was very boring and just walked forward on my own. Behind me, Sensiu's weak and pitiful voice continued, "Jiangdu, don't you want to go and coax classmate Feng? Don't mind her. She has nowhere else to go. Sooner or later, she'll come back." Jiangdu said it with certainty. There was a hint of coldness and disdain in his tone. I paused for a moment, and then quickly continued walking forward. It turned out that their family thought I had nowhere else to go, so they bullied me like that. It didn't matter. If we meet again, I'll also make you taste what it's like to have nowhere to go. 9. On the first day Feng Wen left, Jiangdu didn't feel anything unusual. On the second day, he asked the servant at home irritably, "Has the young lady still not come back?" The servant shook his head. The young man's handsome eyebrows furrowed deeply. "She really has the temper of a young lady. If she likes staying outside, then she can just never come back." After saying these harsh words viciously, he asked the servant again, "Did the young lady say which classmate's house she was going to?" The servant still shook his head. Jiangdu felt even more annoyed. It was as if there was a stone pressing on his heart. It made him unable to breathe easily. When he passed by Feng Wen's room, something seemed to be flashing beside the broad-leaved potted plant by the door. He thought of something. He bent down and picked it up. It was a lonely crystal bead. Jiangdu was a bit stunned. Then he squatted down and, as if possessed, wanted to look for other beads. A trace of regret welled up in his heart. Why did he break the necklace? This was clearly a graduation gift he had wanted to give to Feng Wen. Shiny accessories were Feng Wen's favorite. He had always known that Feng Wen had a bad temper, but she had restrained herself a lot after her parents passed away. He also knew that. Why did he have to make her unhappy? He thought that when Feng Wen came back, he would honestly apologize to her. However, he waited for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, but still didn't see Feng Wen come home. The unease in his heart reached its peak. He started calling Feng Wen's close classmates. The answers he got were all that they hadn't seen Feng Wen. He didn't believe it. He went to look for her from one place to another. Still, there was no trace of Feng Wen, until he opened the door of Feng Wen's bedroom. In the room that was originally decorated warmly, those dolls he had given were gone. Feng Wen's clothes and shoes were all gone too. The room became much emptier all of a sudden. Jiangdu searched the room eagerly, trying to find the traces that Feng Wen had once lived here, but all he found was a piece of letter paper pressed on the table by a book. I've left, uncle and auntie, don't worry about me. There were only 9 words, and not even a single punctuation mark belonged to Jeondu. 10. After the plane landed, I didn't immediately call according to the contact information my uncle had given me. Instead, I entrusted a detective to find out about my uncle's family situation. It didn't need to be very in-depth, just a simple understanding of whether the family was harmonious, etc. I thought that no family that was already in chaos would be willing to accept a strange relative. Fortunately, the news I got was that my uncle had a rather large farm in a certain state. My uncle had a good reputation locally, the family members were simple, and they got along harmoniously. I also made the worst plan. If my uncle wasn't reliable, I could also study in the United States on my own. It wasn't a big deal. After finishing the investigation and buying gifts for everyone, I contacted my uncle. When he learned that I had already arrived, he came to pick me up immediately. 3 days later, I finally arrived at my uncle's farm. My uncle was more than 10 years older than my mother. Because of his early gold mining experience and exposure to the sun and wind, he looked even older. He wasn't good at expressing himself, especially when facing me. He just sighed. "You really look like your mother." Then he gave me a card and told me to spend as I liked. He took me to ride the horses on the farm and allowed me to bully the big dog he raised. The big dog. Who did I offend? My aunt was a slightly plump white woman. She could make delicious desserts. Let me say quietly that the desserts were delicious, but they were really cloying if you ate too much. But she was so enthusiastic. She made all kinds of pastries for me. My uncle's son was already married, and his wife was a Chinese American. Thanks to this elder brother and sister-in-law, I could still eat some Chinese food. My uncle's daughter was only 1 year older than me. When my elder sister saw my decent and proper dress, she shook her head exaggeratedly. "God, don't let those ugly clothes insult your perfect figure." Okay, then she took me to go on a crazy shopping spree in the city. With her around, I quickly integrated into the local young people. After the summer vacation, it was time to go to university. With my uncle's connections, I directly went to the university my elder sister attended. I chose the finance major. There was no other reason. My previous life experience combined with my current property and capital were enough for me to make a career. 11. The life in the United States was warmer than I had imagined. During the holidays, I played crazily on the farm and helped with some miscellaneous work. At school, I attended classes and did homework together with classmates from all over the world. In my sophomore year, after conducting sufficient research, I decided to start with some import and export trade business to gain experience. I had a talk with my uncle. He didn't deny my decision. Instead, he asked me if I had enough money and whether I wanted him to introduce some bosses to me. It would be better to have someone to guide me, as I would avoid many detours, but for a novice like me, it wasn't a big deal to take some detours. I was still young, with enough time and money, and I could afford to make mistakes. So, I, together with 3 other classmates in my class, invested capital to start a small company. We exported American clothing and food to neighboring countries. A year later, in my junior year, the company made a small profit. However, my classmates had different thoughts. Some wanted to start their own businesses after making money, and some thought the company's profit was unstable and ran away. Just like that, the company was dissolved. The experience of running the company accumulated a lot of experience for me. If I were the source factory for the imported and exported products, I would earn more. I made plans and investigations again, preparing to start another company before graduation. In my spare time, with the money I earned, I bought a car for my uncle. I also bought an apartment near the school for myself and lived with my elder sister. In the apartment, I adopted a lot of stray cats, both the disabled and the healthy ones. I took them all in. When the sunlight shone on the balcony, these fluffy creatures would curl up into a ball. They would nestle at my feet and sleep. I stroked one and played with another, and I suddenly thought of my previous life. I liked cats very much. After much coaxing, I finally got Jeongdu to buy a small Siamese cat. Just after bringing it back, Jeongdu's parents disliked it very much. They said that the cat would affect a pregnant woman. You can't get pregnant anyway, and you still keep this thing. It's so unlucky. The little Siamese cat didn't know what it had done wrong. It curled up in my arms, looking wronged. I had to entrust it to a classmate who also loved cats. I gave money and things and visited it regularly. As I thought about this, I picked up a long-haired big orange cat. It seemed that I hadn't thought of my previous life and the Jeong family for a long time. After all, I was living a very happy life now. I didn't need to recall those unpleasant things. 12. In the second semester of my junior year, my new company was established. It was engaged in the dairy products business. From raising dairy cows to processing dairy products, I would gradually improve the industrial chain step by step. Finally, in the year I graduated, the production chain was fully improved. In this way, I could greatly reduce the cost. Whether it was the business in the United States or the export business, I had the confidence to negotiate prices with the other party. After everything was stable, I proposed to go back to China and take a look. My uncle naturally didn't stop me. My elder sister accompanied me back to China. As soon as we landed, my blonde and blue-eyed partner, Anderson, came up to us with a bunch of roses. He was a very standard handsome white man. He could also speak Chinese very well. "Feng Wen, are you surprised?" I was speechless. "Didn't you say you were going to negotiate about the land? If you followed me here, who will deal with that?" His green eyes flashed. "In your heart. I'm not as important as the company at all, am I?" "Of course. Don't act pitiful." My elder sister covered her mouth and laughed beside me. "This guy is as handsome as your bodyguard." Then she secretly gave Anderson a thumbs up. "Come on." Encouraged, Anderson ran over confidently to pull my suitcase for me. But before he could touch the suitcase, another tall figure stood beside me. He casually pulled up the handle of the suitcase, and he also held an umbrella for us in a gentlemanly manner. The muscular forearm in front of me was very firm. I could vaguely see the outline of the blue veins under the wheat-colored skin. "The special car has been arranged, boss." Chen Cheng's voice was rather cold, but his tone was quite gentle. I looked up, and the man's black hair and black eyes came into view. There was no expression on his face. He just stood in front of Anderson, as if he didn't notice him at all. Childish, I thought to myself and got into the car. 13. There were great changes in China. I first went to pay my respects at my parents' graves. When I arrived, in front of my parents' tombstone, a bunch of withered white chrysanthemums was rustling in the wind. Presumably, some of my parents' friends when they were alive had been here. I moved the chrysanthemums away and placed my own bouquet of flowers. I told my parents about my life abroad. I told them about how my uncle took care of me, my aunt's good cooking skills. Only for desserts, the unreliable deeds of my elder brother and sister-in-law in taking care of the newborn. When it came to myself, I said that everything was going well. I had relatives I could act coquettishly with and rely on. I graduated as an excellent graduate, and I met many like-minded friends in my business. Don't worry, I'm taking good care of myself. It started to rain. The rain slid into my mouth, and it tasted salty. After our group finished paying our respects, we walked out of the cemetery. Anderson held an umbrella for my elder sister. Chin Chin walked side by side with me. Just then, we happened to brush past a man and a woman. The man was holding a bunch of white chrysanthemums. The woman was running behind with an umbrella, and the words she said were a bit harsh. "Even if you come here every day, you won't meet Feng Wen. I'm still pregnant. Why can't you consider my feelings?" It was a familiar yet strange female voice. I instinctively turned my head to look. Who else could this man and woman be but Jiangdu and Sensiu, my elder sister, Anderson, and the others all looked at me when they heard them mention my name. I shook my head, indicating that we should ignore them. Sensiu kept talking. Jiangdu suddenly stopped, turned around, and snatched the umbrella from her, throwing it away. "Can you just let me be quiet? You're really annoying." Sensiu let out a scream and almost fell down. Seeing that the two of them were about to have a big quarrel in front of my parents' tombstone, I quickly asked the cemetery management to deal with it. As for why I didn't show myself directly in front of Jiangdu, it was because I didn't come back to China for him. I was interested in the current real estate. I came back to talk about business, so I didn't want to get involved with those unpleasant things. 14. It was very unfortunate. When I went to see the old house, I met an elder. He was an old acquaintance of my parents and the Jiang family. He quickly called and told my mother-in-law of the Jiang family that I had returned to China. My mother-in-law of the Jiang family was very excited and asked me to wait for her where I was. "You child, why didn't you tell Auntie when you came back? Auntie was so worried about you. Wait for me to come and pick you up." "No, Auntie, I still have something to do." I took the initiative to hang up the phone. I returned the mobile phone to that elder. When the mother and son of the Jiang family rushed over, our group had already taken a car to a hotel in the city. We were going to attend a banquet in the evening. We would have contact with several developers in Weiqing. We would talk about the cooperation matters. The banquet was quite grand. Our group was used to drinking and socializing in the United States, so we were also very comfortable here. During the banquet, I had a pleasant conversation with several bosses. Half of this was due to the fact that I really had my own views on doing business. The other half was because everyone had a slight acquaintance with my parents. I had both connections and economic strength. The business negotiation went smoothly. In the middle of the banquet, there was some commotion at the entrance of the hall. Mr. Zhang, the host, was unhappy and asked what had happened. Boss Jiang doesn't have an invitation but insists on breaking in. Mr. Zhang looked at me. He naturally knew that I had once been adopted by the Jiang family. He smiled and said, "The subordinates are just negligent. They forgot to give Boss Jiang an invitation. Why don't you invite him in?" I showed a calm reaction on the surface, but in my heart, I secretly found it funny. What forgot to give the invitation? They just looked down on the Jiang family's wealth, without my financial support. The Jiang family's small company could hardly continue. Moreover, due to various policy changes, the company was almost on the verge of bankruptcy. In such a situation, who would still be willing to pay attention to the Jiang family? I didn't stop Mr. Zhang from letting him in. After all, outsiders didn't know the grudges between me and the Jiang family. If it spread that I was ungrateful, that wouldn't be very good. On the surface, I still maintained my dignity. 15. Jiang Du's gaze locked onto me in an instant. He was wearing a semi-old high-end custom-made suit. Because of the previous pushing and shoving, it had become a bit wrinkled. He didn't care to tidy it up and strode towards me. When, "You're finally back." The eagerness in his eyes was like a lit lamp. It made his dull eyes shine brightly. I didn't move. Just 1 second before Jiang Du came close, 3 people stood in front of me. My elder sister frowned. "Who are you?" Anderson put his hands on his hips. Another one. Chin Ching silently rolled up his sleeves and took off the watch on his wrist. We are legitimate business people." When, Jiang Du's eyes suddenly turned red. "Why? I don't intend to reminisce with him. Long time no see. I still have something to do. Make yourself at home." Behind Jiang Du, his mother followed closely, taking advantage of her age. She squeezed over with a shameless face. When, you said. Why did you just run away without a word back then? Where have you been all these years?" She grabbed my hand and started wiping away tears. I broke free from her little by little. "Auntie, you received all the letters my uncle sent back. Why didn't you tell me? Besides, I left a note when I left." Everyone present was very shrewd. After I said these 2 sentences, everyone probably knew what had happened. It was nothing more than that Zhang's mother had withheld my uncle's letters and tried to prevent me from looking for my relatives. She didn't do such a thing because she liked me too much. It was because she liked the property under my name too much. I don't need to make it clear. It's enough that everyone knows. Zhang's mother immediately stopped crying. She forced a smile and said, Wen, don't be angry. How could I know if it was a hoax or not? By the way, Jiangdu looked for you for a long time after you left. You two should have a good chat and catch up." As she said that, she forcefully pulled Jiangdu beside me. Jiangdu didn't say anything, just stared at me with red eyes. His gaze made me very uncomfortable. I frowned, and Chen Qing came over and told Jiangdu to keep some distance from me. The boss doesn't like others getting too close. Anderson stood on the other side and blocked him. Hey, even I, who am so handsome, couldn't catch her. You'd better give up quickly. Jiangdu didn't look at these 2 people and stared at me, asking, why did you leave? Do you know how long I've been looking for you? I shook my head. I don't know, and I don't want to know. 16, Jiangdu choked. He took out a crystal necklace from his pocket. I fixed this. The day I went to find you was to make up with you. Wen, I'll never be muddle-headed again in the future. He spoke so sincerely, and the light in his eyes flickered. Anderson glanced at the crystal necklace and laughed. I mean, can such a worthless thing be given as a gift? Jiangdu looked at me deeply. I'll get you anything you want. Please, don't ignore me. I've never cared about the value of a gift. In the past, the cloth dolls that Jiangdu casually gave me would make me happy for a long time. I was happy because of the person I liked. Now, not only do I not like Jiangdu, but I'm even too lazy to waste my feelings of disgust on him. He's too weak. Putting aside the emotions that blinded me in my previous life, he is not worth being my opponent at all. I still prefer the way you were unruly. I smiled. The way you thought you could control me was quite interesting. Wen, those were just angry words. He hurried to explain. I thought, oh, it doesn't matter. I took a glass of champagne from the waiter and said indifferently, does your wife know that you came to see me? Don't delay my business negotiations, okay? Jiangdu's lips twitched, as if he had been greatly shocked. In my previous life, if I wanted to say one more word to him, he would say, don't delay his work. His work was to have sex with Sinsiyu every night and have children. The whole family was very happy. Seeing that I was about to leave, Jiangdu panicked. Don't go. Can we start over? This time, before I could speak, My elder sister splashed a glass of wine in his face. Have you no shame? You have a wife but still dare to provoke my sister. This time, all the color drained from Jiangdu's face. I didn't mean to hide the fact that I'm married, Wenwen. I just want to win you back. Don't be angry. Since you and I was an accident, she drugged me. And that's why I made a mistake. All these years, I've been as pure as jade for you. Wait a minute, don't insult the words as pure as jade. Okay, what do I have to be angry about? In the end, Jiangdu and his mother were invited out by Mr. Zhang. After the banquet ended, Jiangdu was still waiting to see me. Unexpectedly, Sensiyu came over with a big belly and started punching and kicking him. I'm carrying the seed of your Jiang family, and you still can't forget another woman. Are you even human? Women during pregnancy are naturally irritable. Instead of coaxing her, Jiangdu thought her shouting was too annoying. He told her to get out and go home. In the end, the two of them actually fought. Then, Zhang's mother pushed Sensiyu down. Crimson liquid trickled down her leg. I withdrew my gaze and got into the car. Jiangdu directly left his wife, who needed to be sent to the hospital, and chased after my car. He kept shouting my name. He's really infatuated, my elder sister said with a look of disgust. He's a total scumbag. I corrected her. He's not infatuated with me. He wants to use our past relationship to move me and make me help the Jiang family. A person like him only loves himself. 17. The cooperation negotiation was quite successful. I will invest together with Mr. Zhang and others to undertake the largest new emerging shopping mall in Weiqing. Due to the preliminary preparation work, I still need to stay in the country for a while. Anderson went back to our home country first. Before he left, he repeatedly told me, there's an old saying in Huagua, a good horse doesn't turn back to eat the grass. Don't make up with that guy. Also, the bodyguard Chin Ching won't do either. His monthly salary can't even afford your watch. With such big muscles, he looks like he's good at fighting. Chin Ching walked over silently. Boss, I also have a martial arts hall, and the monthly profit. I gave the two of them a glare. I can buy things myself. Currently, I just want to make money. If you delay my making money, I'll fire both of you. Anderson glared at Chin Ching and angrily boarded the plane. Chin Ching silently pulled his sleeves down a bit. It seemed that he wanted to cover his muscles, but with his broad shoulders and narrow waist, he could hide his arms, but not his solid pectoral muscles. So childish. Jiangdu came to look for me several times. Later, he was too preoccupied with his own problems and gave up. After Tsinsiyu had a miscarriage, her relatives from her hometown swarmed over. They came to Weiqing and demanded an explanation from Jiangdu. The Jiang family's company's profits had already been dismal. With the interference of Tsinsiyu's relatives, it directly declared bankruptcy. They also found a very good lawyer to help Tsinsiyu fight the divorce lawsuit against Jiangdu. Tsinsiyu got most of the remaining property of the Jiang family. Zhang's father hanged himself at the company's old site due to the bankruptcy. Zhang's mother went crazy all day long because of the shock. She talked to the air every day and scolded the non-existent daughter-in-law on her own. If you don't take the medicine, how can you give birth to a son for our family? If you don't kneel to the Bodhisattva, how can you give birth to a son for Adu? Later, Zhang's mother went to the street and threw a tantrum. She was hit by a passing vehicle, and she ended up paralyzed in bed. Jiangdu begged Tsinsiyu for some money to treat his mother. Most of Tsinsiyu's money had gone into her relatives' pockets, and she simply couldn't take it out. Moreover, Tsinsiyu held a grudge against the Jiang family and wouldn't help even if she had the money. The two of them started arguing again. This time, Jiangdu attributed all his misfortunes to Tsinsiyu. During the fight, he took out a knife. It directly led to Tsinsiyu's death. Jiangdu was quickly arrested, and I, very kindly, went to the hospital to visit Zhang's mother. I paid her medical bills, by the way. Everyone praised me for being affectionate. But they didn't know that I hired the worst nurse for her. She soon had bedsores all over her body. She stank all over. I stood beside her and smiled at her. Auntie, you have the memories of your previous life, right? When you were torturing me, did you ever think that one day you would fall into my hands? You clearly knew that Jiangdu had someone else outside, but you still blamed me for not being able to have children. When I was taking medicine and being punished to kneel, you were enjoying the family happiness with Tsinsiyu's child. You should also taste my pain. Zhang's mother opened her eyes angrily and waved her hands, but she couldn't even touch my sleeve. She could only open her mouth and let the saliva flow out. Her eyes were full of unwillingness. I won't let her die. Just let her live on in this pitiful state. Before Jiangdu was executed, he requested to see me. I agreed, facing me. He cried and repented. He said that many memories that didn't belong to him emerged in his mind. He saw that his indifference to me in his previous life had caused me to live a lonely and miserable life. Can you forgive me? I love you. The reason I couldn't face my own heart is because I wanted to get rid of my parents' control. I've always listened to them, but when they told me to love you, I lost my mind and wanted to do the opposite. How childish. I've lost everything now, he sobbed. I shook my head. He actually smiled. It's okay if you hate me. I'm so miserable in this life. Let it be my retribution. This time, I couldn't help but laugh. Retribution. How could there be such a coincidental retribution? In the reflection of the glass window, my somewhat excited eyebrows and eyes were shown. Do you think that the downfall of your company was all due to the environment? Do you think it was just a coincidence that Sinsiyu could find the location of the banquet? Jiangdu's mother was still joking. Wenwen, do you like our Jiangdu? Shuxin, could those relatives from the village really find a top-notch lawyer team for her? Jiangdu's face turned pale little by little, until there was not a trace of blood left. However, his eyes were bloodshot. You hate me this much. Why shouldn't I hate? In my previous life, I didn't do anything outrageous, but I ended up living a life that was neither human nor ghost. It was because the Jiang family coveted my property. They ruined my whole life. In this life, I've just done a little bit of manipulation. I've been very merciful already. Those